Hello and welcome back to the WABAN podcast. I'm your host, Nim, and I am joined here by an actor from the Ember Island Players.
I barely remember that episode, man.
You got to say something like Avatar State, yip. Or
Right.
what was that? I don't know. There's some other ones. Well, we'll get to that, but
That episode is so weird. I hated that episode.
You hated it? It's so weird, but I think it's hilarious.
I don't know. It's way too awkward and it pokes fun at the story for all the little things that it does.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that, but anyways, we're finally finishing our Avatar discussion today. That we started in episode 4 of the podcast. Now here we are at episode 14. So it took us 10 episodes. I mean, we did one every other week, so it's not like every week, but
yeah.
So we have 10 left to talk about. Starting with episode 12 of season 3, which is the Western Air Temple.
Right, the upside down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like the design of that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's because so far you've seen the other 3 air temples already, right? You've seen the Southern Air Temple was in the 3rd episode. And you saw the Northern Air Temple was where the inventor guy was.
Mm-hmm. And then the tower and open.
Yeah. And then the Eastern Air Temple was where the guru was.
Right.
So now you're in the Western one, which makes sense because, the west side of the map is where the Fire Nation is. So it makes sense that this would be the closest one to the Fire Nation.
Mm-hmm. And it's on the underside of a cliff upside down.
Right.
So cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool design. I like it a lot. Yeah. But as far as the content of this episode, though, the story, this is where Zuko finally joins the group.
And he's an awkward mess.
I mean,
it's amazing.
You would be awkward too if you spent the last 3 years of your life obsessing over capturing the Avatar, and then
I'm awkward even without that, so no judgment.
Exactly. Imagine if you had that added on,
Yeah.
So the last episode we talked about how it was the final piece of his character arc.
Mm-hmm.
So now we go through the rest of the episodes, not all the rest, but most of the rest of this season, the next 3-4 episodes are mostly about, I guess 5 episodes are about Zuko
integrating with the group,
right? Because you see at the end of this episode, he's still the group. They accept him, but they're still not. They he's like, "I won't let you down," and then they all just kind of walk away, and it's just kind of awkward.
Yeah.
So the next few episodes are each one is about him bonding with a different member of the group, kind of. But we'll get into those. But yeah, so I really like how they sort of portray the awkwardness of it, where he's kind of trying to practice. He's on what he's going to say.
Well, you've noticed that Zuko, throughout the seasons, in Ba Sing Se, he's awkward with that girl, or in that weird beach episode, you notice that all 4 of them are awkward with normal people.
Yeah.
And now it just comes together in this, he's definitely awkward with the people he tried to kidnap and kill for the past 50 episodes.
Right, yeah, exactly. How do you convince them, that you're on their side, right? Because, the thing is to us as an audience member, it's obvious to us because we saw all of his character development, but, these characters didn't see that. So to them, it's they're why would we trust you? Last time they saw him was in Ba Sing Se when he attacked Aang, and then last time they saw him before that was probably I don't know, another
Qatar,
time where he was trying to capture.
Yeah. There was when Qatar spotted him in a tea shop and then had a conversation in the weird crystalline prison cell thing.
Oh yeah, like yeah, there was that, but where she like started to trust him, but then he betrayed them. So then, now she really doesn't, which is why she, in this episode, she's the one who trusts him the least at the end. She's the one who's like, because she was the one who was there and started to gain his trust, but then was betrayed right afterwards,
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that she's the one who trusts him the least now.
I really like the bit at the end, I believe that was this episode, where she's like, I'm watching you, like straight up threatens him.
Yeah. She's like, she said, like, if you step out of line even a little bit, she's like, you don't have to worry about your destiny anymore, because it'll end right there. And like, literally just threatened to kill him if he steps out of line. Because the episode,
Qatar is like a badass.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But no, like the episode ends on like a kind of like a positive note, but also a negative note, because like it ends and it's like, oh, Zuko's part of the group. He's helping them now. He's going to teach Aang firebending. But it also kind of ends in this like awkward thing where he's like, he's just kind of there and he just got threatened by Qatar and he doesn't know what to do about it. He's just like, because, she has every right to say that to him because of what he's done, in the past. And he doesn't know what to do, which is why the next few episodes are about him gaining the trust of the members. Because they could have gone with this episode and then went straight into, the finale. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have been 21. It wouldn't have been enough episodes to fill a season, but also it wouldn't have,
it'd been awkward.
It'd be too quick. Right.
Yeah.
Cause by the finale, they all trust him fully and they're all, they're all together on this. So yeah, you kind of need those episodes. But yeah, no, I just love a lot of those awkward moments though that he has, like, when he's like talking to the frog to practice and he like tries to do impersonations of Iroh and Azula.
Yeah. They weren't bad.
Yeah.
I really like when voice actors do accents in certain voices. So it's not their accents of the voices, it's their characters' accents of the voices.
Yeah,
it's just this weird like layered thing.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, I really like that aspect of it. And he sort of gains their trust when he helps them defeat Sparky Boom Man. Yeah, I mean, kill. He's pretty much dead at this point. Well, I mean, really, Sokka is the one who finally killed him, right? Because it was his boomerang skills that hit him in the eye that made the explosion, made it blow up in his face. But yeah, and I like there's like some little details in this episode that I think are really interesting. Like, for instance, out of the group, Toph is the one who's like, come on guys, let's go talk to Yano, because she wasn't there for the season 1 when he was chasing Aang.
Also, she can tell that he's telling the truth. Right.
She's also the one who can tell, feel the vibrations and tell if somebody's lying. And she's like, he seemed sincere. And yeah, and I like how they like sort of bring up a lot of things, like when they're discussing it, like Aang brings up the Blue Spirit episode. He's like, I didn't tell you about this, but that one time like somebody saved me from this prison, like it was Zuko. And like they're bringing up all these things to sort of debate on like whether they should trust him or not. But then like Qatar is like, well, yeah, but like there was the one time I started to trust him, and then I started to think he was an actual human being, but clearly he doesn't. He's
yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
And Zuko's just like, no, I'm good now. Please.
He's like, well, yeah, because in his head he's probably thinking like, yeah, you're right. That makes sense that they wouldn't trust me, but which is where most of the awkwardness comes from, I think, is because he doesn't know how to like portray how he truly feels to them. And like, sadly,
when he accidentally burns Toph's feet, that part. And he screams out, "Why am I so bad at being good?"
Yeah, I always feel bad in that part because I'm like, oh, like he didn't mean to, obviously, and it's like, but you know, by the end, he's there with them. Oh, there's one little detail I really like in this episode, actually, that I want to point out before we move on. So closer to the beginning, I think when they first arrive at the air temple, Aang is sort of trying to, they're like, let's make plans for the future. Let's figure out what we're going to do. And Aang is trying to like avoid that, right? Right. So there's a moment where he's like, hey, let's go check out the temple and stuff. And he starts like flying around on his glider, like for fun or whatever. His new glider after the other one was destroyed. He starts flying around his glider and he's like, woo, yeah, look at me, I'm having fun, whatever. And the music that was played in season 1 a lot plays there, like whenever he's doing something, he's like being a fun like 12-year-old kid and he's just going woo, having fun. Like that music started playing for a second, because like that music I don't think hadn't played in a while since like season 1, because that was sort of like,
I didn't notice this at all.
Yeah, I think I mean I've watched it many times, so like I notice these things. But like there's like, so like in season 1 there's a lot, this like piece of music that plays a lot when he's like being a, you know, mischievous like little 12-year-old, woo, going, you know, whatever, like, hey guys, watch this, whoa, let's have fun, you know. And it hasn't played a while once you get to this point, right? Because the story has gotten a little bit more serious. He's sort of matured a lot as a character, so they haven't played that music in a while. But there was that moment where he was like trying to like avoid talking about it, and he was like, hey, let's go check out the temple, whoa, like here's some cool things. And it played for a second, like as like almost like he was reverting back to the way he originally was at the beginning of the show,
as like a coping mechanism for what just happened,
right after the defeat. So like I think that's really interesting how they like did that. Like they even used that musical cue to kind of remind you of that. I love like little musical motifs and stuff, and like how they can be used to tell a story and stuff. It's really interesting. But yeah,
next episode.
Yeah, sure. Let's do next episode, which is the Firebending Masters. So this is when Aang gets his life-changing field trip with Zuko.
Yeah.
So
Zuko realizes that he fuels his firebending with his anger, and he's not angry anymore, so he can't firebend.
Yeah, he goes, I'm sorry. Hey guys, I have to tell you something. I lost my stuff. Toph goes, don't look at me. I didn't take it. No, I mean, I can't firebend anymore. Yeah. Or like Aang just being like calling him Sifu Hotman.
Oh, right.
Stop calling me that. But anyways, yeah, so they're not
what, the Sun Warriors?
Yeah. So they come up with the idea of going there because he's like, well, you know, I think the problem is I've used anger to fuel my firebending, and like, you know, I don't want to use, and I don't have that anger anymore.
And Toph is like, well, just go to the original source like I did with Badger Moles.
Exactly. And this is actually an interesting moment of adding to the lore, because I don't know if we like. I think it's been mentioned before that she learned from badger moles, and it's been mentioned, you know, and we know that like there were dragons at one point because we saw like Roku had one and stuff, and like I think you saw Sozin had one as well. But you didn't fully know that like the lore of like, oh, that was the original earthbenders were the badger moles, the original firebenders, you know, the original airbenders were the sky bison. Like I don't think ever really mentioned that like lore until now. So it's kind of like an interesting,
like small tidbits.
Maybe because I like we've had like, obviously there's been a sky bison throughout the whole show, right? You know, Appa's been there, but I don't think it was ever mentioned that
badger moles and all that.
Right, yeah. But so I don't know. Yeah, I think this is the first time you really fully get an explanation for that. So I think that's a really cool lore, little extra thing. I like it a lot. But yeah, so it's like, okay, well, there's got to be a way. They're basically like, there's got to be a way to learn firebending that's not through anger. There's got to be another way. Let's go to the original source. he says, all the dragons are extinct, so we can't do that. But there's a place maybe we could go, is like this ancient Sun Warrior temple where apparently the Sun Warriors don't exist anymore, but maybe we'll learn something by going there. So they go there, and
they find this weird dance thing that
the dancing dragon
Zuko to do with him.
Zuko, dance with me.
And then they get stuck in this weird goop.
Yeah. Oh, I love them one moment before that. Like, Zuko uses his sword to, like, help get into the temple. Like, he reflects the beam instead of, like, waiting for the sun to be in the right position. And then Aang goes, it's like, I don't care what everybody else says. I think you're pretty smart. Zuko, like, he's like, looks happy for a second, then he's like, wait. Then he has a look on his face like, wait a minute. What? People don't think I'm smart?
That was like a really long moment, seemingly, too. It was great.
Yeah. But yeah, they get stuck in this thing, in this goop stuff.
And then they discover the Sun Warriors are alive and well.
Yep. And
was this, I guess this was about the time. No, I guess it was later, where Zuko tells Aang about how his family started the tradition of dragon hunting.
I think he did at this point. Yeah, I think he already told him at this point, and he's like, "Yeah, that's why they're extinct." And he said, "My uncle killed the last one," and he's like, "Well, I thought your uncle was like good," and he's like, "He had a complicated past. Guess it runs in the family." Yeah. So, anyways, so they go and they're like, "Yo, you have to present to the masters, Ren and Shaw," and they have to go up to the stairs.
Carrying the original flame all the way.
Right, and like...
without letting it go out.
I just love the moment where Aang goes out and he's freaking out. Zuko,
let me have some of yours.
No, stop trying to cheat off me. They're just like... and then they both go out and they're like... just as the masters are coming out and they're like, crap. The dragon, and then they fly out and it turns out that the masters they were talking about were dragons, the only existing dragons. They're not all extinct.
I believe they were the same two dragons in some of Zuko's visions.
Yeah, I think they're the same color. Well, there's like the one specific vision, I think.
Yeah, when he was like passed out from like his whiplash change in personality.
Yeah, and there was like one of the dragons had Azula's voice and one of them had Iroh's. And yeah. They might be. I mean, I think, are they the same? Similar. I think they're the same colors because it was like one was red and one was blue. So so the dragons come out. They like fly around them to show them like the true meaning of firebending. Actually, I like before they do like the flying around them thing. They're like, it looks like they might kill them, or like they're like they're going to judge them. And I love how Aang's like, I think they want us to do the dragon dance, and I really like the visual of them doing it. And then like there's like moments where the dragons are behind them, like moving along with the same movements, like they're flowing with their dance movements, which is why it was called the Dancing Dragon, right? Because it's like those are the movements of the dragon kind of thing, which is that I thought was just a really cool little touch and like a really cool scene. And I think and then the dragons decide that they are like worthy or whatever. And
in the typhoon of flames that they saw at the beginning of the ruins.
That part. Yeah, I love that part. Because they sort of show them the true meaning of firebending.
It's not just destruction.
It's not just destruction. It's also life, and it also it's also like the sun gives life and stuff like that, right? And all this stuff. And they show like it's like this it's this like whirlwind of fire around them.
That's like technicolored,
all different colors that fire could be, and they're like amazed by it. They're like, oh, I didn't know that there could be this many colors of fire. It's like this. It's a really cool moment, and like I love the visual of them both just standing there looking up at like with all these like colored flames around them. I even have like a sticker that I put on the back of my computer that I got from like I don't know, like Redbubble or something like that. That has like that image, of them like standing there looking at the fire.
Right. And then suddenly they're all good with firebending. They can actually practice now.
Right. Because, the Zuko now realizes, what it truly is. And they're like, I thought my uncle killed the last dragon. They also realized, they're like, oh, yeah, he actually didn't. He decided not to, and he learned the true meaning of firebending too.
He was the last one for the masters to
He just lied and told everyone that he killed them so that nobody would come looking for them. Which I really like, because it's like, it's interesting because you notice throughout the rest of the show, you're like, Iroh doesn't seem to use anger for his firebending, right? Like,
oh no, definitely not. Yeah,
right. Like, okay, like everybody else, like Zuko's so like, oh well, I don't know any other way other than anger. It's like, well, Iroh didn't seem to be that way, or like, but you notice, Iroh, even in the beginning, like the first episode, Iroh was like telling Zuko, he was like, firebending comes from the breath, not the muscles. Like, he's trying to teach him, like, here's the true meaning of the firebending, and he even said, and it's been explained many times, that like the stomach is like the where your
like the
firebending comes from. Or I think Iroh said not, he said from the breath, which would be like from the stomach, kind of, right, because Iroh describes it as a sea of chi. And when you and when you get to like the guru and he's teaching him the chakras, I think the stomach was the fire chakra, if I remember. So
let's see here.
But I'm pretty sure it was
chakras list.
Yeah, I think I was paying attention to it the other day when I was watching that episode, because I was like, is it? And then I think it was. But so it's like you kind of, there were these hints all along that like Iroh didn't.
I cannot spell chakra.
But I think it's cool because there's like these hints all along that Iroh didn't do firebending the same way as everybody else. He didn't use the same methods, kind of. He also, used other cultures to learn new methods, like with, lightning redirection. But
you are correct. Fire chakra is in the stomach.
Is in the stomach, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Iroh all along knew the true meaning of firebending. And when he had those moments of him saying, it comes from the breath, not the muscles, like maybe that was part of him trying to slowly teach Zuko the true firebending. Because, I feel like the muscles are probably more... firebending coming from the muscles is probably more related to, like, the anger side of it, too, right? Like, you're using the muscles instead of the breath, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting, too, because you realize with the Sparky Boom Man, the firebending guy there, whenever he does one of his fire blasts, he takes a deep breath, and he's like, you can see like his stomach contract, like, again, firebending comes from the breath. That's kind of it's really interesting when you look at some of these things, like the connections you can make.
I was always very interested about how he works, because like he does that. He needs that moment of like preparation to do it.
Yeah.
But that is the only thing that he does. And when he gets hit on the head, it like messes with it. So it must be something that like he's like a one-trick pony, that like that one move requires his full concentration, and he can't be like dazed at all to do it. Yeah,
it's almost like you have to be 100, if you want to do that method of firebending, you almost have to be 100% dedicated to that method and no others.
Yeah,
almost.
Exactly.
It is interesting. Like I think that's interesting. And the thing is, I don't think, as far as the lore goes, I don't think there's a lot of explanation for that. It's just still kind of a mystery, because there's only one other character that's ever, as far as I know, ever existed that is like that, and there's a character in Legend of Korra that's like that.
Right.
But I think it hasn't really been fully explained yet, so that is very interesting.
It's weird.
But this is definitely a much needed episode for Aang and Zuko to bond.
The wiki has called it combustion bending.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. That's right. I think I remember that.
Really cool.
Yeah, so it's just like another form of firebending. Yeah, it is really cool. But yeah, if you want, we can move on to the next episode.
Yep. I guess that's it.
Next, we have...
There's no longer like the separation between Aang's story and Zuko's story. It's now the same, so everything seems a bit
right.
shorter.
Yeah, you can't. You're not like, oh, here's what's happening to Team Avatar. Here's what's happening to Zuko, because like they're all together now. Yeah.
It's just one story.
Yep. So next we have The Boiling Rock, which is a two-parter, and that is Sokka's life-changing field trip,
which is a lot bigger than the other two.
Right. Yeah. So basically, Sokka is, ever since, the Day of the Black Sun, their dad was captured, and Sokka's been sort of like, wanted to find him, and he realized, Zuko's here. Zuko might know some things about like Fire Nation prisons, like maybe he'll know.
He's a prince, even though he hadn't been for a while, but still.
Yeah, but he would still know some things, I think. Like even when he was out, traveling the world on the ship, he probably got word about things, knew about things, I would think.
Tells him about it. Sokka tries to leave on his own, and Zuko doesn't let him.
And then they leave in the war balloon and have some awkward conversations. Some of the best awkward conversations in the whole show.
My first girlfriend turned into Moon. That's rough,
buddy.
Such a good line.
I love that.
2 sentences, and it's so good.
But yeah, they have like they have a few of these just like really awkward moments where they're just sitting there like, let's see, what do we talk about?
Fluffy clouds.
Yeah, he's like, nice clouds. Zuko's just like, yeah, fluffy. Like, because, again, like, it's so weird for them to like, be together, kind of like hanging out after all this.
They're used to
because like
fighting him.
Right. At the end of and it's funny because like at the end of the southern, or no, the Western Air Temple, that episode that we just talked about a few minutes ago, Sokka is like, leads him into his room. He's like, yeah, here's a room where you're gonna stay, Zuko, there's a bed, make yourself at home, all that. He's like, yep. Then he leaves, and as he walks out, he goes to Aang, and he's just like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
It's like he's almost saying what like the audience is thinking, because like, yes, you knew it was coming all along, but still, like, once it happens and he's just hanging out with the group, it does feel weird at first, because it just feels weird,
I think this is also where, while they're in that war balloon, Sokka is like, yeah, my friend invented these. Oh, right. And
it's a war balloon.
Like, yeah, we turned them into, mass-produced machines of war, yeah.
It's like, it's a balloon, but for war. But yeah, so they go into the prison known as the Boiling Rock, which I think is a really cool design for a prison.
Yeah, definitely.
So in a lot of universes, they have like their version of like the inescapable prison, I don't know if you remember, I don't know how much Clone Wars you've watched, but like in Clone Wars, they had like the Citadel.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember any details, but
it's pretty cool. I like the Citadel. They're pretty good episodes. But like, like the different like things have the version of like it's the inescapable prison, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's ever escaped. We're gonna break your record and escape.
What is it? In the Outer Wilds?
I'm not sure.
Well, because there was 2 games that came out: the Outer Wilds and the Outer World? No.
Maybe?
They were very similar names, and they're both like space-themed games, so you get them confused constantly, but one of them had a complete planet dedicated to being a prison called Tartarus. Easy
That's cool.
name.
Yeah.
And it was, the escapable prison, blah, blah, blah.
That's cool. Yeah. I think a lot of different like universes and stuff have a version of that kind of, and this is the one in Avatar. So basically, it's like this whole sort of like big kind of rock circle that maybe was once a volcano. I don't know, something. I don't know.
They said it was in the middle of a volcano, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, and then I think so. And then inside, it's like surrounded by this prison is surrounded by water that is so boiling that it like would kill you if you fell in it.
Mm-hmm. And because of that, their war balloon crashes because physics.
Yes, because the air is hotter in there than it is in the balloon,
yeah,
or the same
hotter.
Temperature. So the balloon falls.
Both would have the same effect.
Yeah.
About.
I love the moment where like he's like he like pushes the balloon in and he's like, well, don't you have a plan for escape? He's like, Sokka's like, usually I plan things out, but this time I was going to play it by ear. And he's like,
because usually my plans don't work out, so I didn't bother this time.
And he's like, he's basically like, I'm doing it like you, Zuko. Or I remember him not planning things through, just jumping headfirst in, which is actually a funny little comparison they have here. Like they actually acknowledge that in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly how the lines were, but like that, like Sokka is really good at planning and thinking things through, whereas Zuko's like,
impulse,
very impulsive, just jumps in without a plan. Even Iroh pointed it out, like if in the one episode,
things through.
If they didn't come to save you, you would have frozen to death. Like
that one.
What are you gonna do if you take the bison? Should we put him in our apartment? Should I put on tea for him? But yeah, so they decide to disguise themselves as prison guards, which I love them pretending to be prison guards. Like,
yes.
I just think it creates some hilarious moments. Like they're like, oh yeah, what you could take the helmet off. What if a prisoner comes and strikes me on the head?
Or like,
I want to be prepared.
I'd assume
the new guy.
I'd assume that he was the superior, the guy that was like taunting the first inmate or the main inmate that they interact with.
Oh yeah.
And he goes, isn't this cute? And they don't respond. And Sokka's like, adorable, sir. Just saying anything to get him off their back.
Very cute, sir. Yeah. I just think there's a lot of funny moments of them like pretending to be guards. Here, I want to go in and rough him up a little bit. And then he's like pretending to punch him, and he's just punching a pillow so he can talk to him. Take that.
Then they walk in and he's like, oh, I need to make this look realistic, and starts strangling him.
I love when like Suki comes in and like Sokka is like goes into the prison dressed as a prison guard, and she's like, he's like, you don't remember me? She's like, maybe you'll remember this, like she did in season 2. Yeah. If you remember, when they met her and like she wasn't wearing her makeup and stuff, so he didn't recognize her first, and she's like, maybe you'll remember this, and she kisses him on the cheek, and he's like, Suki, he tried to do the same thing to her, and he's like about to kiss her, and she like grabs his lips and like like beats her, and he's like, oh, it's me, Sokka, and she's like, oh, Sokka, whoops.
So good. I really love like Sugi's actions in the next in like these 2 episodes, because they're like, yeah, Sokka is making up the plan. Sugi like gets shit done though.
Yeah. Like, okay, now we got to capture the warden. How are we going to do that?
And she just bolts.
I think she's already on it. I think your girlfriend's already on it. She's just like jumping across everybody's heads, jumping up, and captures him like easily.
The tower, yeah.
Like it's not even difficult for her. She's like, yep, I captured the warden. We're good. Cool. Moving on. Yeah. One thing that I think is really cool. Well, one thing I think is really cool about this episode is when like May comes in.
Right.
So, because like the last time Zuko saw like May was, before he left. And the
And
last
he
thing
just left with a
he just
note.
left a note saying like, I'm sorry, I have to leave or whatever. And she doesn't understand what like happened. Cause like, I guess her uncle is the warden, which, yeah, having that as an uncle, I don't know, that guy.
I mean, it's understandable. Like,
I mean, yeah,
he did what he had to do. He could have left more than a note at least.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Come on.
Well, it takes her a second to understand why he's doing it. She's like, he's like, I'm trying to save my country, and she's like, you betrayed your country, because from like most people's perspective, that's like what he's doing. But yeah, and I like how like closer to the end, like at the end, Azula, like May ends up helping them escape, right?
Right.
And then Azula,
that is an amazing turning point for Azula. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because the thing is like she controls her friends through fear. It's always been shown since the first time you saw her friends, right? Episode 3, she gets Ty Lee to go with her by threatening her, essentially, right?
I'm assuming you mean episode 3, like season 2, right?
Season 2, episode 3. That's what I meant to say.
Right.
Yeah, season 2, episode 3. When she was at the circus and she's like, "But I'm happy here," and then she,
right. Lights the net on fire and releases all the animals.
Yeah, and then she just suddenly changes her mind and wants to go with her. I wonder why, But yeah, it's implied throughout it that she controls them through fear, Like,
right.
That's just how she does it. And which is not like really a good friendship. That's kind of like an abusive friendship, which
not at all. Like,
I think it's great that they acknowledge that fact, though, that like it's
the only reason they like seem like friends is because Ty Lee is so like upbeat and May is so like casual and quiet and reserved about everything. So just like they just kind of get along vaguely.
Yeah. But like I love that moment where she's like why would you do that? And she's like, you miscalculated. I love Zuko more than I fear you. Like, I love that moment,
And that
it's just like, and then
it was like the perfect thing to just push her buttons.
Yeah, which you see in the finale too. You see a lot in the finale. And I love that like throughout this conversation they're having, Ty Lee is just sitting there in between, like she's like doesn't know what to do almost. She's like,
and then she
what's
makes
going
her
on?
decision.
And she makes her decision. And this is where it comes down to the whole like controlling people through controlling your friends through fear is not a good way to do it, because if she actually was a good friend and actually cared for her friends and actually like loved and cared for her friends, then maybe Ty Lee wouldn't have turned against her. It's, she decided with the friend who is actually a good friend instead of the abusive friend, and it's like when it came down to it, when she was given a choice, it was,
and that sends her spiraling down into
right, because I think she always had this mindset that like, oh, those are the two people that'll always be with me on my side, and then they suddenly weren't anymore, and it's like this because at this point in the show, she's always been a very controlled, calculating villain who's like has everything under control, confident. And then, we'll talk about this more when we get to the finale, because that's where we really see it. But like she, that all sort of starts to fall apart mentally.
That's like the first crack that starts to shatter all that.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of goes to show that controlling people through fear is not the way to go. It's more or less, it's better to actually care about people and love and care about people.
Someone to tell you that, maybe.
I mean, yeah. But I like that they showed that happen, though, because it's been shown throughout the whole show that like up to this point that like she controls her friends through fear, and it's kind of like showing that like ultimately it may have worked for a while, but there's a point where, there's a breaking point where it's not, it's not going to keep a lasting friendship kind of. So I like that they show that.
Yeah. There's two other things little details that I really like about this episode. One, that inmate character, I don't know. I have I really like him because he goes and he when they decide to stay to find his father, he goes and he gets captured and interrogated, but he doesn't rat out Sokka.
Yeah, you think he's going to
the entire way through.
Yeah, you think he's going to rat him out because he's like, wait, I'll show you who it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they round up about all the people, and you're in line. And you're like, come on, man, you don't have to rat him out. But then instead, he tells them that it's the guy who was like a jerk to him earlier. So he's getting back at that guy. That I love that revenge moment where he's like, it's him, and he's like, what? Although I also love that when Azula shows up, she walks in and she's like, it's not him. He's innocent. It's not him. Like, she just knows.
Yeah.
I love that.
But I also like he's just like this casual, I know how this prison works. Like, we need to start a riot. Okay. He picks a guy up, starts bench pressing.
Riot.
Yeah. And it's good.
You wouldn't happen to know how to start a prison riot, would you? Please. He just literally grabs a guy, holds him up, riot, and then it starts.
It's
love
so
that
good.
moment.
But also, there's the moment where the warden gets free from the bindings on the...
Oh, when they're on the gondola?
Gondola, that's it. It's not... Is it a gondola?
That's what they called it.
Boats? Whatever
it's called, yeah. I think that's what they called it.
But he leans out the window and says, cut the line. But he'll fall in. He knows. And then you think back to the beginning when they first went on, when they were at some point. They mentioned at some point. He literally said, I would choose to throw myself in the boiling lake than let the streak of this inescapable prison go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, his one mission in life is never let anyone escape.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to keep that
they
record.
Literally say right then and there, I would rather throw myself in the boiling lake. And he then tells them to throw him in the boiling lake.
It wasn't an expression. It wasn't just an exaggeration. He meant it.
Mm-hmm.
He truly meant it, yeah. Yeah. Try to think what else.
There's a bunch of stuff with Sokka and his father, and then meeting Qatar when they get home.
Yeah. I really like, one thing I really like, though, is I really like Sokka's plan that they planned to escape.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't end up working because the guy burnt himself and then screamed.
Yeah.
But if he hadn't done that, maybe it would have worked. It was actually a pretty genius escape plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I love about these inescapable prison type stories is the escape plans. I love seeing the characters put together an escape plan. Oh, what do we have available to us to help escape? We have this. Oh, what if we did? I love seeing things like that being put together.
Because the world builds up the prison so much, and how it's you can't do this, you can't do that because there's this in place and this counter, blah blah blah, and then the characters are forced to weave through all these things and find the tiniest little bit of leeway.
Yeah. And Sokka is the perfect character to be the one to do that because we've already established throughout the entire show that he's got this really smart figure problem solving brain where he's constantly coming up with ideas. He came up with the idea of how to make the air balloon work, and now this
came up with a strategy to destroy the drill in Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, exactly. He's always coming up with these great ideas, and so I love that they kind of like, yeah, he was the perfect character to be the one to come up with the escape plan, you know? So,
Yep,
but
and then his father helped him with the second one, and that one worked for the most part.
Yeah.
It was rocky, but it made it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't really have a lot more to say about these episodes. They are really good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
As we've already established, this is Sokka and Zuko's bonding moments. So we can move on to the next one if you're ready.
Sure.
And this one is the Southern Raiders, which is Zuko bonding with Katara.
Right.
So the episode opens with a quick little action scene of they're at the air temple. Suddenly, Azula finds them.
Right.
And attacks them and them escaping. That's pretty much the scene. I don't know if there's much more to it. Although I do love the one line of dialogue Azula has, where she's like, you know, they show up and Zuko's like, "What are you doing here?" And she says, "Isn't it obvious? I'm about to celebrate becoming an only child."
Yes.
Love her insanity.
I do also love the little detail of, you remember that, like, it's an air temple, because Aang, like, swings the staff and blows the wind to, move this iron curtain around the area that they're standing in.
Right. Yeah. Like it's designed for to be able to do things like that with air.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because, like, oh yeah, they're all airbenders, most of the people that are here. So, like, they would have mechanisms solely designed with airbending.
Yeah. No. So yeah, it's a cool little action scene to open it up with. I mean, it doesn't really add much to the plot of the rest of the episode, I don't think.
No, it just kind of gets them out of the air temple.
Or yeah. So now they're like out camping somewhere. And they're like, you know, oh, it's like old times camping. And then Zuko, well, if you really want it to be like old times, I could chase you around a little bit and try to capture you. Everybody finds it funny except Katara.
Yeah.
So we saw before that she was like, did not trust him. And she still hasn't quite built that trust. She's still not ready to forgive him. And this episode is about him trying to help her with, he's like, what can I do to help, you know?
Right. He tries to reach out and she like blows up on him saying
she's
about,
like,
you know, her mother and everything.
Right. And he's like, oh, that's how I can. Maybe I can help get revenge on her mother. And then he goes to Sokka to ask him about their mother, which is hilarious.
He runs into Suki, who's blushing. It's like, oh no, I don't need to talk to Sokka.
Do you need to talk to Sokka? No. Walks away, goes in. Sokka is DTF. Sokka he's just got like a rose there. He's like laying there, you know, his hair's down. He's like ready for Suki. He's like, hello. And then he sees that it's Zuko. Zuko, why would I be expecting anyone different? That's just hilarious. And Zuko
leaves and Sokka leans out of the tent like, Suki, but
you know what's
right there.
You know what's kind of funny about that though is like, so Zuko has a conversation with Sokka. Sokka literally is, you know, remembering and talking about his mother's death. And then he immediately goes right back into, Suki, come on. I'm ready for you, Suki. Like, it's kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah, a bit awkward, but it's comedy.
Yeah, he peeks his head out of the tent. Suki! Zuko's still there.
This is the first time you actually hear that story.
Oh, yeah, of their mother's death. So, yeah, and Sokka, being a very perceptive person, does remember a detail that they had sea ravens on the flags of the people who attacked.
And Zuko knows who they are.
So Zuko knows that they are the Southern Raiders.
And this is an interesting little detail for your little Zuko backstory obsession.
Mm-hmm.
He still has that shadow of himself because he recommends and encourages Katara to seek revenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is like Zuko is still this, in a way, the same partially the same person as he was before. Like he's changed a lot and he's gone through a lot of growth. But yeah, even if you may go through a lot of change and you grow as a person, you still retain probably some of the characteristics you had before. And
yeah, old habits die hard.
Right, his mindset of vengeance of like, yeah, he wronged you, let's get revenge, kind of. But yeah, and Qatar is fully on board with it because she still harbors this anger, since her mom died.
It's an interesting dynamic too, because like her immediate anger at that point was directed at Zuko, and Zuko's just like, oh well, I mean, I can like help you with that, and like redirects her anger somewhere else. And they put a bunch of energy into that until finally she's like, I guess, burnt out of all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and obviously, Aang, being the pacifist monk that he is like, hey, you don't need to get revenge. Like, that's not not the way to do this.
I do really love like Zuko's full-on support with the revenge, though, because like when they found the current leader of the Southern Raiders, he was like, look her in the eyes, tell me you don't remember, just like being the murder version of wingmanning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, despite everything, or because of everything, maybe, he's very good at it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like he's like full 100% in support of her. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, and I was gonna say something, but I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, I was just gonna bring up the fact that Qatar uses bloodbending in that scene.
Right.
Which is like a big deal because in the bloodbending episode, she was like, I don't want this power. I don't ever want to use this. But she does. Because of that, the anger towards her mother's death is so strong that she's willing to do that. And I think there's like a moment of like shock in Zuko's eyes when he sees her doing that. Because Zuko probably doesn't know this is even that's even a thing that can happen.
And he's like, he just rolls with it though.
He's just like, okay, that you're doing this right now. All right, wow.
And I do love, I believe, like just in the beginning of that like boat scene, they just kind of casually showed the full moon.
Like, yeah.
Like they do all this stuff that like you don't really think of, and then you look back like, oh, that was establishing that this is possible for later.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, because you can only do the bloodbending on the full moon. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Yue's up there looking down on you like, oh, using my power for bloodbending.
That's right. Yue will always see every moment that Katara bloodbends.
Yeah. Actually reminds me of a moment in like another episode of season 3 that we already covered in last time. The bloodbending episode. They're like trying to investigate and because it's like, and when the full moon comes out, Toph, not knowing that the moon spirit is Yue, because that happened before that she was with them. She's like, maybe the moon spirit is like evil or out to get people or whatever. And I don't remember exactly. And Sokka's like, no, the moon spirit is a kind, loving, amazing woman. I don't know exactly what he said, but like something along those lines.
He like goes off in defense of the moon spirit of Yue.
I love that moment. But anyways, back on the topic at hand. So they end up finding the real guy who did it, right? He's retired at this point.
He lives with his like hag of a mother that's
kind
makes
of
him do everything for him.
It's kind of bitchy mother, yeah. But I mean, he's not a great person either. So
yeah.
See, the thing is, at this point, like he's retired and he's just kind of a sad, pathetic man. Doesn't have much of a life going,
Because you'd expect from Avatar, like the whole all life has value kind of thing, that like he would be living like a decent life, like he would have a family or something, or like he'd be doing some sort of good for like his at least local community,
or maybe he would be like, I regret what I did, or whatever.
But
and he kind of says he regrets what he did, but it's obvious that he's saying it because he's afraid of her killing him, not because he actually regrets it. Like, it's more like, I regret it because it could lead to you killing me, not because he actually regrets it. And yeah, that moment when she like comes out though and like holds the rain up, like stops the rain.
She T-poses and the water freezes. I love it.
Yeah. And I also just... It's interesting too, like the man is like, how about you take my mother? Since I took your mother, that'll be fair. Because he's basically saying, oh, take my mother instead of me. Haha. Like, so yeah, he's not really a great son either. But yeah.
That's why it shocks me so much. Because like so much of Avatar is like, all life has value, even in the worst situations, don't kill people. But that, like, they make this guy out to just be scum through and through.
Yeah.
With, like, no redeeming qualities.
Right. But despite that, she still can't bring herself to kill him. She comes close, but she just can't. And I do like the moment, though, where they return and Aang, she tells him, like, I didn't do it, and Aang's like, I'm proud of you. And he's like, I'm glad you, went with forgiveness. She's like, oh no. She's like, I'll never forgive him, but then she's like, but I am ready to forgive you, to Zuko. And, but I do love that moment of like, she's like, I'll never forgive him. Like, I didn't kill him. I couldn't bring myself to kill him, but I still will never forgive him. Like that's a poignant moment.
It's a interesting middle ground between, Avatar, Goody Two-Shoes, forgiveness, and complete revenge.
Right, because, I mean, in her eyes, like, there's no way she can forgive him. Like,
yeah, understandably.
He killed her mother, she was there right before I think she left right before he actually killed her, but like she was there right before it happened and saw, like she can't, and it's pretty obvious that she had a strong bond with her mother before she died too. Right. Like it's heavily implied that it was like that like their mother's death affected her way more than it affected Sokka.
Right.
Because like obviously Sokka was affected by it, but it's
Yeah, there was a moment earlier in season 2, I think, where Sokka said, whenever I think of mother.
Oh, that was season 3 actually.
Katara. Oh, right.
Yeah, but it was like earlier in season 3.
Right. But yeah, it's an interesting point.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and there's also a moment in this episode where at the beginning before she goes, where Sokka's like, maybe Aang's right. You really shouldn't get revenge. And he's like, she was my mother too, or whatever. And Katara is like, well, you didn't love her like I did, or like, and it's like he's just like, Katara, what the heck? Like,
yeah,
like, it's intense, and that sort of intense revenge and kind of thing is something you wouldn't expect from Katara. Because I feel like she's always a very calm, loving person.
Well, like there were moments where she gets set off or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like I remember I
Right.
love this scene, and I never mentioned it before. When they like needed to know like where to find Toph when they were searching for an earthbending teacher.
Oh yeah.
And like
And she like beats the guys up to figure out. Yeah.
freezes them like sideways with their
Yeah.
heads
Yeah.
stuck together.
Yeah.
But like she's
Yeah.
never been like
But
fully malicious.
right, that wasn't anger fueled. Right. That was just she used
Getting
her
something
badass
done.
moves to get something done. Right.
But
So
like
it's
the
very
only hint
jarring.
the only hint you had of that before was her threatening Zuko.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and part of that, was probably due to, her thinking of like her mother was killed by the Fire Nation kind of thing. And like, he's part of the Fire Nation, but like, it's interesting because it's like it's weird to see Qatar like this because like you're not used to it, but it makes sense. It's like this is her, like the thing that triggers her is, thinking about her mother's death. And I mean, her mother's death is how her and Zuko started to bond at the end of season 2 before Zuko turned against them. When she was like, the Fire Nation took away my mother, and Zuko says that's something we have in common, and like they have that little bonding moment. So yeah, which is actually kind of cool. It's kind of cool that like one of their first bonding moments ever had to do with her talking about her losing her mother, and now the episode about them finally bonding and become forgiving each other, or for her forgiving him, has to do with her mother's death as well. That's actually kind of an interesting little connection that I just made. I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. So look, I love when I'm like discussing it and then I notice things, I'm like, oh, wait.
Or you actually say something out loud and it like stirs more gears to further your thought process of it.
Yeah. I love making all these little connections throughout the show where you're like, oh, because of this happened then. And that's how it's all linked and connected very well. It's all put together very well.
That's what makes this show so good, because you can think about it for so long and still find these little details like, oh, that's genius.
Yeah. And it really strengthens the characters because the character changes make sense because you notice these little details of before, like, oh yeah, this is the way it was then, and now it's, you'd see the progression of it. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about that episode. So if you want to move,
does T-pose have to say that?
Yes, that's pretty cool.
It's supposed to be a dramatic moment where she raises her arms and the entire like area around them stops raining with the droplets just floating in the air. But my brain just goes, oh, she's T-posing, asserting dominance by T-posing.
Yep. But anyways, the next episode is the Ember Island Players.
Yes.
So do you want to continue what you were saying earlier about it, or? It's
so weird. It like goes through the entire story as a play and pokes fun at everything. And like does like extreme things with all like the little details of it, and it's so weird and kind of cringy, but also interesting and funny.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're supposed to be like, wow, these actors are horrible. This play is horrible. Even the characters are like, what? This play is horrible.
Like when the rock falls on Jet, and they're like, did Jet die? It was unclear.
It was unclear.
Yes, it was unclear.
Just like in the actual episode. Or like, they're like, wow, look there. That's the Great Divide. Let's keep flying. Like, they know that that's the most hated episode of the series. Yep. So they're like, let's just skip that one. Like, I love those little things.
I also love in the beginning where you're talking about all the resources the playwright used. and at the very end was a surprisingly knowledge cabbage vendor. Surprisingly knowledgeable cabbage vendor. Like, cabbage man.
I love that.
There he is.
There he is. I know. It's like, see, it all comes full circle, right? You know, Cabbage Man was there for a reason, so he could help them make a play.
Cabbage Man, best character.
Yeah, exactly. I just think there's so many, like, there are some really genuinely funny moments in this episode too. I think, like, when Toph, the actor playing Toph, comes in, it's like this giant, like, buff dude,
and he's just like all for it. Yeah,
everybody else is like, because throughout the whole time she's been making fun of, like, the versions of them on the stage. She's like, yeah, that's just like you. And then she comes out and then Qatar's like, yeah, that sounds like a really buff guy. And Qatar's like, yeah, well, like you said, that's the truth. And then she's like, are you kidding? I wouldn't have cast it any other way.
Well, it fits Toph so well because, like,
she has the personality of a big buff dude.
True.
But in a little blind girl.
Yeah, which is great, by the way.
I love that.
Like, also, her personality is just, like, extremely prideful, and, like, there's not a shred of shame in her body. Like, come on.
Yeah. I also just love when they're like, she's just like, who are you? My name's Toph, because it sounds like tough.
Or,
I don't see like you do.
Yes.
I release a sonic wave from my mouth. There, I got a pretty good look at you. That is, like, so one of my favorite lines from this episode. That it's just hilarious. I don't know, just the way the line is delivered is just perfect. I just love it.
And, like, the way they warp the relationships between, like, Qatar and Aang and Qatar and Zuko.
Yeah. I thought you were the Avatar's girl. I think of him as just a brother. I look at him like a brother.
Hits Aang so hard, my poor boy.
Yeah.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Even though it's just a play, but he's still, it's hard for him to see. Well, because there's, like, the moment where he goes on the stage version of Zuko's like, oh, I thought you were the Avatar's girl. And then Aang just, like, nods his head. He's like, yeah. I love that. Or how another thing I love how they make fun of Zuko's growing hair.
Yes.
Because the Iroh one is like, he's like, Zuko, it's time we had a serious talk about your hair. It's gone too far. I don't know. This episode is, I love this episode. It's like, you know,
I enjoyed it. It's still good.
I almost felt like they were told that before the finale, that they had to do, like, a recap episode, you know, where it's like, here's a way to recap the rest of the show. But they were like, we're not going to do a normal, boring recap episode where we literally just play scenes from the other episodes. No, we're going to do it this way. It still recaps the story, but in a fun and in a hilarious and ridiculous way.
It serves that purpose very well. I don't know. I'm just really sensitive to, like, the weird, like, awkward, like, cringy stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's understandable.
Like, even that beach episode with Azula and Zuko and everyone, like, all that socially awkwardness. I'm like, I am like this in real life. I cannot take this in the show.
Oh, yeah. I love that. But yeah, I also think it's kind of cool how this episode sort of creates a sense of dread for the finale, because the play ends with Aang dying and the Firelord winning, because obviously it's a play made in the Fire Nation. And like Aang has this look where he's just like, what if that really happens? You know, like, that could be real. That could really happen. It
ends on them all saying that it was a terrible show, terrible play.
Sokka, the effects were decent. Yeah. I also just love Sokka in this episode. He's so, like, hurt by the fact that the jokes aren't funny enough. Sokka's jokes aren't funny enough in the show, that he goes backstage to, like, tell the actor Sokka to, like, tell new jokes.
Mm-hmm. I do also really love Suki and Sokka in this, because for the most part, whenever like Sokka gets really excited, she just like she feels like I'm just gonna let him have this. He's happy.
I didn't know. And then there's one part, I didn't know you made out with the moon spirit. Shh, I'm watching. As he's like in tears in that scene. Mm-hmm. Oh, and also Toph and Zuko have a nice little bonding moment, actually. And during like one of the intermissions. They're sitting there.
Right.
Yeah, and Zuko's like talking about how he
betrayed Iroh, yeah.
And he's like, I don't know if he's gonna accept me, he probably, I wanna like make it up to my uncle and whatever. And she's like, I think you already have. You already have made him proud. And he's like, really? And she's like, yeah. One time I had a long conversation with the guy and he wouldn't shut up about you. It was kind of annoying, but also really sweet.
That's
and then
great.
She punches him in the arm. Ow. That's how I show affection. Which is funny because you see her throughout the show punching the other characters a lot. Mm-hmm. Like she'll just like punch like Aang down or something or like whatever throughout the show.
Like, brute and witch girl. It's great.
But like I love that she says like that's how I show affection, because it's like, oh, so every time you did that in the entire show, every time I see her do that in the show, when I rewatch, I'm like, see, that's just her way of saying that she cares. Like,
well, like when you're not Zuko and you see everything as a watcher, you get it. Like,
yeah,
even like before she says that, because it just seems like the way she is. But it's nice to have that confirmation.
Yeah,
in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here's another little detail about Toph, the character of Toph. I don't know why. I guess talking about how she shows affection or whatever reminded me of this. Mm-hmm. Throughout the show, I don't know if you noticed this. Throughout the show, you can see many different times where like they're flying on Appa, or the one time they're like on a boat, or like, anytime they're somewhere where like they're not on like solid ground. Mm-hmm. She's like clinging to like Sokka's arm a lot of the time.
Oh, right. Or like
somebody else's arm.
Like the like weird handle loop on the saddle of Appa. I've seen that a lot. Yeah.
And there was like a few times where she's like clinging onto like Sokka's arm, mm-hmm. Or like he was like guiding her or whatever, Like when they were like in the Painted Lady, they were on the dock. So like the in the town, which is all like a wooden dock, so there's no land when they're in there, and like Sokka's like helping lead her across, and like just love little cute little moments like that.
Yeah, in the finale when they're running on the war balloons, but not on the middle part, on like the actual part with the air in it. He's constantly grabbing her hand and pulling her along to help her.
Yeah. I love little touches like that, because like you could easily make the show without adding stuff like that, and I don't think anybody would notice like, oh, she's blind, she should have somebody leading her. But like I feel like the fact that they did, put the effort in to make those little details is really cool.
Yes.
I really like that. But anyways, that's not, on
There's
topic with the episode I was talking about. But
throughout the entire, like, her existence in the show, she never bothers to look at people, which, she's blind, so why would she? And she has, like, her 360 vision with earthbending, so she, doesn't have to bother looking at people, because there's a ton of moments where she'll, like, point to someone, but, like, not look at them.
Yeah.
And it's, you could, like, add her looking at her just for, like, simplicity's sake in animation or whatever. But not doing it adds, like, yeah, she really is blind, and looking at someone and turning her head doesn't matter.
Yeah. They do a lot of little details where it's like to remind you that she's blind almost, like in the first episode that she was in, at the end, she's like standing on the ground, and she earth bends and like throws Aang up in a tree, and she's like, there, that's to get you back for beating me in the fight. And she's like, I'll have the belt back, please. And then Sokka throws it to her. And because she's blind, she can't see it in the air, because it's not touching any earth. And so it just smacks her in the head. You know, like there's just like little things like that. I think
Right.
a lot of little details just to kind of.
Toph is a great character.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Toph. They're all great characters. I mean, every single one of them. Especially the cabbage merchant. He's the best. Anyways,
He's the ruler.
Don't know if we have much more to say about the Ember Island players.
Oh no, not at all.
Other than Avatar State. Yep. So now we can move on to Sozin's Comet, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. The finale. Finally here. I mean, we could take it in parts just because, I mean, there's a decent amount that goes on. So
okay, there's like before where Aang goes missing and...
Right. But before that even... So before Aang goes missing, they're...
Up to Aang goes missing, let's say.
Yeah, up to, like, once we get up to that point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's a section where they're on Ember Island. So, there's the beach and everything.
They're in an abandoned mansion manor vacation house thing of Zuko's.
Yeah, that his family used to go to, yeah.
Back when they were happy.
Yeah. So starting out, they're like, Zuko's really hardcore trying to train Aang, and Aang's like, oh, we can take a break. It's fine. Everybody's like, yeah, it's fine. They go to the beach for a beach party. Sokka makes an amazing, beautiful sand statue of Suki.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
accurate.
Oppa and Toph. There's a little detail that I saw online. That's like a little fan theory. Toph sandbended the entirety of Ba Sing Se. But there's a fan theory out there that's like Toph learned and mastered sandbending to that extent to be able to do that so she wouldn't be stuck in the desert like they were when they lost Appa.
Oh, yeah. So she would never... Yeah, if she ended up in that situation again, she'd be ready for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And also, like, that was a traumatic experience for her, too, because, like, she was the one who was out there with Appa, and she wasn't able to save him because, her sandbending wasn't good enough.
She couldn't see.
She couldn't see as well through the sandbending. So I think, maybe that was like her motivation to sort of push herself to be like, yeah, I'm going to practice sandbending. So by this point, maybe she's been secretly practicing here and there throughout, we never really saw it. And then now she's like able to do this cool sand sculpture of Ba Sing Se.
Right.
Yeah, that is actually a cool point. I don't think I ever thought of it like that. That is actually cool. I like that.
It's a really interesting detail that they didn't go into a lot of detail with, but interesting to think about.
It makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. But yeah, I also love that there's another instance of the, I think I've mentioned this before, the whole theme that Sokka is just bad at art with his sand sculpture of Suki.
And Suki's just sitting there like, I think it's sweet. Like,
she didn't say, I think it looks good. She just said, I think it's sweet. Like, I think it's sweet that he tried, like.
I love their relationship because so much of it is just Sokka, like, going off and, like, being all excited and doing whatever. And Suga being just like, I'm going to let him have this. He's happy.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love their relationship. And you only really see their relationship fully like in these last few episodes. Because, I mean, I guess you kind of do before, in a few episodes before, but like, ever since the one where the Boiling Rock where they saved her. But yeah, and then Zuko attacks Aang out of nowhere, which is interesting because it's like, I get why he's doing it, right? He's doing it because he's like, I need to force him to train. But as, in normal Zuko fashion, he doesn't always think things through.
Yeah, I mean, literally a few episodes earlier, like the first episode that we talked about, Qatar threatened his life over this.
Yeah. And
So,
like, yes, they all went through their bonding moments with Zuko where they all got to know him and they all got to trust him, but still it's like, okay, maybe this isn't the best way to handle this situation. I think it's hilarious. But yeah, so that
well, we get a
happens.
good reason out of him.
Yeah. And
That,
Sokka, Qatar comes in. Oh, what happened? I made a sand sculpture of Suki and Zuko destroyed it. Oh, and he attacked Aang.
Yep, there's like a full like 2 beats of him hesitating with the second part.
As if him destroying the sand sculpture was the worst thing that he did, you know. But yeah, so they realize he's like, come on, we need to fight. We need to be ready for the comet. It's in like, however many days, like 4 days or so. Yeah, we need to be ready by then. And they're like, oh, we didn't tell you? We were planning on attacking the Firelord after the comet because we don't think Aang's ready. Aang's like, yeah, I'm still need to master firebending. And Toph's like, yeah, your earthbending needs a little work too. And then this is when Zuko reveals, remember back in the, I think it was Daydreams and Nightmares and Daydreams was the episode where, the episode where like Aang was having trouble sleeping before the invasion. But what in that episode, Zuko went to the war meeting and we didn't see what was said in the war meeting. We just saw him coming out and being like, I was the perfect prince, but I wasn't me, We didn't see what led him to feel that way, feel like, Now he tells them what was said in that meeting.
That the Fire Nation has a goddamn scorched earth plan.
That the Fire Nation is going to attempt their second genocide. So they're like, one genocide isn't enough. Let's do another. The Earth Kingdom, they don't need to exist anymore.
And this time with the war balloons, they don't even have to land to do it. They can just firebomb them
fly above the sky and just shoot fire down, yeah. And because of the comet, their fire is so powerful that it's just flying everywhere. And then the Earthbenders would really have no...
We are going to talk about that later. The extent of their firepower increase.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's really amazing. Cool. I love it. So now they're suddenly like, okay, we got to kick this into high gear. Let's prepare. So now that everybody knows what's, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Maybe we should do it by the comet because we can't let that happen. And this brings up a really important issue, which is Aang's pacifism. Yeah. And he's like, they're like, so what are you?
Lord.
So I am not tough. I am Melon Lord. Yeah. So Aang doesn't know what to do because he's like, I can't just kill the Firelord, which is interesting because I'm thinking about it like, did you not think about this before? Like, is this, I guess yes, he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably one of those things where it always felt very distant. And now it's days away.
Yeah, suddenly. Yeah. And now it's suddenly here. Like he knew it would have to happen and he'd have to deal with that at some point. But now he's finally like, oh crap, this is real. This is about to happen.
The first time with the Day of Black Sun that he thought he was going to face the Firelord.
He wasn't even going to be able to bend. And so he thought maybe I could capture him easily and like do something else.
Or like even he was just worried about facing him. Like, he never worried about how he was going to beat him or anything like that.
Yeah.
He was just worried about getting there and not making a fool of himself.
Yeah. And now he comes to this realization that he's like, wait a minute.
I actually need to fight this guy.
And like, everybody wants me to kill him. And he's like, I don't want to kill him. But he's like, there's no other way to stop him, though. Like, what do I do? And it creates this crisis. And like, everybody is telling him to do it, even down to like his best friends, like there's that moment where they're, doing the training thing and they have the melon and like at the end, he won't hit the melon. Like they're pretending it's the Firelord, and he's like
The melon
about
lord.
to do it. Yeah, he's about to like hit it,
Second best
and
character.
yes, oh yeah, and he stops, and then Sokka comes in, and Sokka's like, What were you doing there? You would be dead right now if this was the real thing. He's like, he chops the melon in half. He's like, that's how it's done. Which, like, I think that's like a moment of like the serious side of Sokka, where he's just like the warrior side of Sokka, you know?
Making
it's
a
like
hard decision. Yeah.
He's just like, that's how it's done. Like, you know. But yeah, so then
and goes off to meditate with Momo.
Yeah. So in the middle of the night, an island appears. You know, Aang swims to it like in some sort of trance or something. Like he doesn't even seem like he's like aware that he's doing it. Like it's like in his sleep or something. It's like calling to him or whatever. And we don't see him for the rest of that episode.
Yeah, and everyone's just looking for him.
And Toph wants her life-changing field trip with Zuko. I'll go with Zuko. What? Everybody else got a life-changing field trip with Zuko. Now it's my turn.
I love her like trying to force it to like telling him her backstory and everything.
Like to an yeah, and he's just like, I get that you had a rough childhood, but we should really be focusing on finding Aang. Worst field trip ever. Although I do get why they never had her like bonding moment with Zuko, bonding episode with Zuko. Because like if you think about it, the three characters that he had to have the bonding episodes with are the three characters that he's like wronged the most, right? Like they're the ones that were there in the first season that he was chasing after for so long. They're the, you know, Toph never really experienced that. Toph never really had that much of negative feelings towards Zuko, so she didn't need that.
Main interaction with Zuko is hearing about him from Iroh.
Yeah.
So she already has a pretty positive viewpoint of him.
Yeah, exactly. You know. Yeah, and the first time she ever like actually saw Zuko, well, not saw because she's blind, physically was there with Zuko, I guess saw through the ground, was when Zuko was, all Zuko was worried about was helping his uncle who had just been hit by fire by Azula.
Yes. Or just before that when he was helping them with Azula. Yeah, so from her perspective, she has like no negative feelings towards him, except for maybe when he burnt her feet, but she knows it was an accident. So yeah, she didn't need the life-changing field trip like the other characters did, so it makes sense that they did specifically went with those three characters. Yeah, but I would have loved to see it though.
I mean, yeah. I don't know what it would have been, but it'd have to be something to do with her parents or something. I don't know.
Probably.
It's like, what else would it be? I don't know. We can always wonder. But yeah, anyways, so they try to find him and they he
wasn't kidnapped. He seemed to go willingly. And then it disappeared into the ocean and he wasn't on the island anymore.
And then when they finally realized that Momo's missing, Sokka has an interesting theory.
Right.
Appa ate Momo.
And he climbs in his mouth.
Sokka, get out of the bison's mouth. There's a meme I had. I can probably share it with you, but basically I'll explain it. It's pretty simple. It starts with a picture of it says joining Team Avatar expectations. It shows like all of Team Avatar, lined up, fighting badass stances, and then it says underneath it's like Team Avatar joining Team Avatar reality, and then it's just Zuko standing there. Sokka, get out of the bison's mouth. I love that. So here I can find it later and send it to you if you want. But
here I was trying to find it, but
I mean, you get the gist of it. But
I found a few others. Oppa ate Momo. Top 10 anime betrayals.
Top.
Or everyone. Zuko's transformation from the beginning to end is unmatched. Me, an intellectual. And it's Momo and Sokka thinking that it's dinner and transforming to Appa ate Momo. Momo, I'm coming for you, buddy.
Okay, then. Interesting. But yeah, turns out Appa did not eat Momo. Surprise, surprise. Here's one question I have, though, is Appa a vegetarian like Aang is?
As far as we were shown, it's always been like hay or like fruit.
Yeah, or cabbages. Like, that's all you've ever seen him eat. You've never just because, he's an air bison or a sky bison, and he's like, lived with the air nomads and they were vegetarians. So I feel like he probably is.
I would assume so. And bisons typically, I think, are vegetarians, I believe.
Probably, yeah. I don't really know. I don't know anything about real bisons.
Well, I mean, even looking at Appa's teeth, like, he's a herbivore. Maybe not strictly by, natural diet, but...
Yeah. But yeah, so then they go to the Earth Kingdom to find June again, who was in season 1. So June. Remember back then I said, oh yeah, she comes back in season 3. This is where, not for very long, but a little bit.
Yeah, but we get more of her, like, chilling in a bar, like...
beating people up.
Beating people up and being a badass.
Like, she does all that and Toph's just like, I don't know who this June lady is, but I like her. Like, because she's just beating people up, which is, of course Toph loves somebody who's...
I agree with Toph very much.
Maybe not in the same way, but...
I mean, similar ways. That way plus additional, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember from the last time we talked about that character. So anyways, I love how she just like sees him and she's just like, where's your creepy uncle? Or no, your creepy grandpa, she says. Because, last time they were together, he was like constantly like creeping on her.
Or so you've made up with your girlfriend and they both panic and deny it.
Yeah. There is a large portion of the fan base that ships Katara and Zuko.
They're wrong.
They are wrong. I agree. Yeah. No, I think they're great as friends. Like, they have a great friendship. Like, once they finally form their friendship, they have a great relationship as friends for sure.
Like I said, Zuko is an excellent murder wingman.
Yeah, exactly. Now Zuko's okay with being with May, and Katara's fine with Aang. So just leave it at that. Because that's actually canon. That's actually what it is. So we'll leave it at that. But anyways, so she helps to try to find him, and she's essentially, they give him a something that smells like him, and she's like, her mole creature tries to find him and
just lays
nothing.
Down its arms over its head here.
She's like, basically he doesn't exist.
Yeah, he's gone. We mean he's dead? No, if he was dead, we could find the body. He just gone. He doesn't exist anymore.
It's as if he doesn't exist. Yep. Which is very interesting.
Yes, it is.
I think... And then they're like, oh, let's go find... Then they decide to go find Iroh instead. I think this could be... Well, you know what? We'll kind of separate how we talk about this. This might be around when we find where Aang actually was, but we'll kind of separate how we talk about this.
We'll wait until after to get to Aang.
So next, because we're still in like I think this is... Where we're at now, I think, is about the second episode of the 4.
Yes, I would
of the finale. So. So they leave to go find Iroh, leads them to the wall of Ba Sing Se, the outer wall of Ba Sing Se, where they meet the
old people.
The old people. All old people know each other. Don't you know that? Yeah.
I love the contrast between those three and Boomy.
Yeah, they're all three of them are like these wise old masters. Like Boomy is a wise old master, but like he's Boomy.
A mad genius, yeah.
He's Boomy. That's all you need to say. He's just he's also, I'm pretty sure, the oldest one out of them too.
Yeah, 112.
Yeah, I think the oldest still living character in the show is not Boomy's. Almost one of the oldest. I mean, not including Aang. Aang's about the same age, but like actual age, physical age-wise, I guess.
Yes.
There is actually another that's older, and that's the Guru.
Right.
Because if you remember, the Guru says that he was a personal friend of Monkey Yatsu.
Right. So he's, let's say, around Monkey Yatsu's age, plus 100.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Like,
yeah,
50 plus years older than Aang, maybe?
Yeah, so he's a good 150 plus years, 150 or more, which it is canon in this world that people, there are rare cases where people can live really long. I don't think it happens often. I think it's like very specific cases, like maybe for him it's because he's so spiritual, or like Avatar Kyoshi lived to be like 220 years old or something,
Hell yeah.
So yeah, there are cases of that, of like people living really old in this universe, including Boomy, and Boomy is still in great shape. I love the moment where Boomy's like talks about how on the eclipse he took back Omashu,
and he's literally just like throwing buildings.
Yeah, and he like he knocks down like the Ozai statue and stuff. It's great. But then and he goes, "So, did you guys do anything interesting on the day of the eclipse?" They're all just like, "No, not at all."
You did mention that Boomy is like a looks great for his age, and like I love that contrast between his face, which is like old and wrinkled, maybe not quite what would warrant being like 112, but still old, and his body is just this like rock hard muscle, and you know, he looks insanely built.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the like ideal earthbender body, I think, because like earthbenders are supposed to be like the tough, like hard as a rock, strong, ones, right?
Brute force, no way around it, just push.
And he's like, one of the best earthbenders. I say one of because I think Toph is the best earthbender in the world, but he's like the second best.
She invented metal bending.
Yes. Plus,
so
like maybe Boomy would be able to beat her in a fight, maybe, but she's also 12 years old, and Boomy's had way more experience. And like,
yeah, I think Boomy could beat her in like a shoving match of like pure like bending strength. But if you like add like finesse and ability, I think Toph would be able to like even out that with her.
Yeah. Probably
things. And
yeah, it would probably be a tough fight for her because he's much more powerful than I think the earthbenders she's faced before, like in the earth battle, the earth fights, the earth fighting matches that she's been in and stuff.
I think they both got like the earthbending strategy down.
Yeah.
Toph has an edge with her way of seeing, but he has the edge with pure strength. Yeah.
And just years of experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Too. But no, I love how like it's just they just took basically any of the old like master characters that they had throughout the show and just were like, yep, they're all here as the White Lotus, because it's Boomy, it's Master
Sword
P and
Master.
Dao, Master Paku, and Zhang Zhang.
Which was
the
Boomy.
fire.
Everyone remembers who Boomy is. The firebending teacher, the sword master teacher, and the waterbending
Paku,
teacher.
the waterbending teacher. Yeah, and they learned that he married their grandmother. He married Grandpaku. He's like, can I call you Gramp, or whatever? He's like, you can just still call me Paku. What about Grandpaku? No. And then, welcome to old people camp, as Boomy says. So they go to the White Lotus camp to meet Iroh, and the moment where Zuko meets Iroh again is just... First off, like, he goes in there and Iroh's asleep, and Zuko just sits there and waits for him to come back, you know? And it's also shown very much that, like, Zuko is extremely nervous because, you know, again, last time he saw him, he, like, betrayed him and, like, you know... and then he's like, Iroh wakes up, he has his back turned. He's like...
Zuko immediately starts apologizing.
He's like, I'm sorry, and he's like crying. He's like, I'm sorry for what I did, Uncle. I'm so ashamed. And Iroh doesn't even say anything and just pulls him in and hugs him. That's a tearjerker right there. That's a moment that'll make you cry.
What was the line? I was never angry. I was just sad that you lost your way.
Yeah. And it is the new Iroh voice, so it's a little weird, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's still a great moment.
It kind of works because he had just like gone through his bulking up in the prison.
That is true. That is a good point. Yeah. So it's like maybe
his voice might have changed a bit. Plus, it's been like roughened up from like, you know, maybe you can reason that he's been crying over Zuko for a while.
That's a good point. Yeah. Because the voice does sound a little bit more rough, almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Strained.
Yeah. That is a good point. I never thought of it like that. So I love when you point out things that I never noticed, and I'm like, yeah, I watched it 5 times already, and I still didn't notice it. You know,
it's a different perspective.
Exactly.
And it's useful in all situations.
Exactly. It is. It's always good to get different perspectives. If only everyone thought that way. Anyways, but yeah, and it's just because Zuko's just like, I thought you would be angry with me, and like he's like, you know, just that moment is just perfect. Because again, like I said before, the end of Zuko's character arc already technically happened, so now his main...
He's just settling in as that character now.
Yeah,
with all the other characters.
Right. It's him sort of gaining forgiveness from the other characters. That is the rest that he needs to do for the rest of... That's what his character is doing now for the rest of the show, and including his uncle. You know, he needs to have that moment of like forgiveness with his uncle, whereas, you know, and this just great moment. But yeah,
then it's revealed that the White Lotus plans to take back Ba Sing Se.
Yep,
in the full-scale rebellion.
Yep, during the the comet. Yeah, during the comet, and then they're like, we still don't know where Aang is, and they're like, we're gonna do what we can to help him, you know. I love the moment where Zuko goes, so what are we gonna do about the Firelord? And Toph's like, you mean the Firelord? That's what I said.
He's trying to push aside his like personal feelings, but they're there, and they have every right to be there.
The Firelord. So yeah, and then they come up with the plan that, you know, Zuko's like, I'm gonna go face Azula, because he's like, it's like, oh yeah, in the last episode, I think it was revealed that, like, you know, Azula was going to be made Firelord, And
right.
because Ozai was like, I'm going to rule the world now. I'm going to be the Phoenix King. Yeah, the Phoenix King. And so Azula is, about to have her like coronation to become the Fire Lord, and essentially they're like, yeah, Zuko's gonna go, and Iroh's like, and Zuko's like, Iroh, talking to his uncle, he's like, Uncle, are you gonna, become the Fire Lord? And he's like, no,
you are.
That's your destiny. And it's like one of those things where you kind of know the show is building to that. Like you kind of know in the background of it, you're like,
natural ending for him,
right? That Zuko would become the Fire Lord, but it's like here's where you're finally like, oh yeah, like here Zuko's going to be the Fire.
Confirmed.
Yep. Exactly.
Also, side note, the entire time where like Azula is just like rapidly declining insanity because of past episodes.
Yes. So that's also happening because so Azula is like, she's going to be made Fire Lord, right? And she's trying to make sure everything's perfect for her coronation, and throughout it, she's constantly paranoid, right? And I think it's because her other friends like turned on her, and now she's paranoid that others might turn on her, and she starts banishing everyone, right? Like the woman accidentally left a peach pit, or not a peach pit, a cherry pit in the cherry, and she's like, I could have choked on it. You're banished, and it's like
the Dai Li, yep. Those two old women that were always there announcing things and taking care of them.
Yeah.
And one of them's banished. We don't know which one, but apparently one of them's banished.
Yeah. And then there's, I think one of the best moments of this whole like decline of her is the moment where her brain like creates an image of her mother being there. Like she envisions her mother being behind her, even though her mother's not there.
Illusion, what do you call it?
Yeah, an illusion.
Well, no, it's an illusion, but it's like
illusion from your own brain. It's like a
hallucination.
Yeah,
that's
hallucination.
It.
Yeah, that's the word. Look at us with our big words. That's not even that fancy of a word, but
no, it is not. My brain kept going to hypnosis. Like that's hypnosis.
Not it. That's completely different. Where she's like getting her hair ready, and I love the moment she's just like, her hair's not working out right because she has to do her hair herself, because she banished everyone. And she's like, all right, hair, you have met your match or whatever she said.
Meet your doom.
Yeah, that's what it was. She like cuts part of it off, and now her hair looks terrible. And like you can see like she just has that deranged, like she just, everything is falling apart, and then all of a sudden she looks in the mirror and just sees her mother behind her, and it's this moment where she's just like, and it's weird because it's like her mother saying things like, it's not true, Azula. I always did love you and whatever, because she always felt that her mother, she's like, my mother just thought I was a monster and all that. She's like, you were scared. Of course. Yeah. She's like, you were scared. You were scared of me. And she's like, no, I loved you, Azula. So but this is a hallucination. So even in her head, she's picturing her mom saying, I really loved you. And like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. And but then because she says moments like, she says something like, but fear is the only way. What other choice do I have other than make people fear me? And like, she's saying it to like the fake version of her mother. And it's kind of sad in a way. Like, she's a terrible person, but like, you that she's a terrible person because of her father, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's interesting.
She's like Zuko if she never had a chance to turn around.
Yeah, although she was always more malicious than Zuko, though. Like, I think.
Yeah.
Even you can see like from the flashbacks when they were younger and stuff, Zuko was like a somewhat normal kid, and she was just kind of still a little evil even when she was young, But so we're really gearing up for the final battles. So Zuko and Katara go to face Azula. The White Lotus
Toph,
goes
Sokka, and Suki goes to
stop the
destroy the
airships,
warships, yep, or balloons. That's it.
Yeah, and
The White Lotus
goes to take back Ba Sing Se. I love
the Iroh mentions his vision. He mentions that he had a vision as a young man that he would, take and invade Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, that he would take Ba Sing Se, and he realized
it's not for the Fire Nation; it's from the Fire Nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he now realizes what that vision meant. Yeah, that is really cool because we've heard so many times throughout the show about he had that siege on Ba Sing Se where that he failed, and it's cool to see it was the reason why he had that such an intent on taking Ba Sing Se was because he had a vision when he was young that he would take it. It's kind of cool. And I love the moment where he's just like, so if we win, what are you going to do? And he's just like, I'm going to reconquer my tea shop. And then I'm going to play Pie Show every day.
I love Iroh in that sort of aspect of him. Because he's like, yeah, he's a badass and he gets stuff done and, he's wise. But he's also just like, I am a dude. I am going to find time to relax and live my life peacefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's very much on the side of he has that deep belief that you should do what makes you happy kind of thing, enjoy life, do what makes you happy. Which is what he's always tried to get Zuko to understand, because he's always been like, Zuko, you need to find what you want in your life instead of constantly following what your father wants, and even he said to Aang at the end of season 2 when he was asking him, he's like, yeah, I could have he's like, I could have gone into been able to control the Avatar state, but I would have to give up the one I love. And he goes, he's like, ultimate power is overrated. You're wise to choose happiness, instead. And I'm like, he has that mindset of you should just do what makes you happy, enjoy life. And I love that, I love that sort of mindset he has. He'll do stuff that needs to be done when it needs to be done. But, when he's in a relaxing situation, he's like, yeah, we'll just live life, have fun. When they were in Ba Sing Se, he was like, yeah, let's go start making tea. Shop. Let's start a job. Let's open a teen shop. That's just what our life is now. Let's enjoy it.
Zuko, go and get a girlfriend.
But Zuko still had that constant focus on I gotta, this isn't right. I need to get out of here. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. He wasn't happy with it, Whereas he was trying to get Zuko to realize, you can just relax and enjoy it,
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, we're gearing up for the finale, but we haven't talked about where Aang is yet.
Ah, yes. Which, side note, going back to how June said that he didn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting, little detail, bless you.
Thank you.
About, it's an interesting little detail about how that island, using
lion turtle.
Yep, the giant lion turtle.
The lion turtles work, where it's
where did that lion turtle go?
Well, it's maybe if you're, I don't know, it's something I don't know. I don't know exactly how lion turtles work. They're some sort of ancient spirits, I think, of they explain a little bit more about them in an episode of Legend of Korra, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're some of the most ancient beings, longest living beings of all time that exist, know. They have this ancient wisdom that nobody ever even knows, because he even Roku appears to him and he's like,
I don't
know, hey
Roku,
and Roku's like, I don't know where we are. What is this place, And Aang's like, oh, my bending works, so we're not in spirit world. but I can't. And then he gets in like the middle. He's like, I can't bend this, so it's not Earth. Wait.
It's been like the shell, right?
Yeah, it was the shell of the lion turtle. That's why he couldn't bend it, because it wasn't Earth. But I love that he like goes. He's like going and asking each one of his past lives for like advice on the whole Firelord situation, because he doesn't want to kill him. And like everyone else, they keep giving him the answer of like, you probably should do it. Basically, Roku says, "Yeah, if I was more decisive, I could have stopped Sozin. If I didn't spare him, I could have stopped him, and I could have stopped the war from ever happening. So I would say be really decisive." The next one was like Avatar Kyoshi, and like obviously Kyoshi's all for killing him because it's Kyoshi.
Yeah.
I love that moment after she leaves. He's just like, I knew I shouldn't have asked Avatar Kyoshi. I knew I shouldn't have asked Kyoshi. But yeah, because he's like, well, yeah, but like technically you didn't kill Chin. He just died by accident. And she's like, yeah, but I would have. I would have done whatever it takes. Like, she's just straight up like, if that's what it took, I would have killed him. And then he goes to
there
Avatar.
There are so many characters like that I'm just like, yes. Like, I don't know. I love Avatar's female characters because absolutely none of them are like deity or like anything like that. They just have their own, like, yeah, I'd fight someone.
Yeah.
In some capacity, like there's Qatar with her threatening Zuko over Aang and the rest of the group. There's Toph, which Toph would fight anybody for anything, let's be honest.
She just loves fighting.
There's Azula, which is like, yeah, she's crazy, but she's also confident and, does what she wants and, gets what she wants. And all these like characters that are like, yeah, they'd fight you for one reason or another.
Yeah, no, Avatar does. I mean, we've mentioned this before, but Avatar does a great job at having a lot of like strong female characters. So great job. Yeah, and like it's like well balanced. It's not like they just threw in one strong female character just to be like, oh, just so we have it. It's like the characters are, it's kind of like well balanced, between the
and I
characters.
Believe I mentioned this in an early episode of this too. They're not cookie cuttered. They're all unique and different and strong in different ways.
Yeah, they're not just, each one isn't just the stereotypical strong female character. It's like each one is a very unique, specific character. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so then he goes back to asking Avatar Kuruk, who's like the waterbending one.
Right.
That's the one who's like his
lover
girlfriend got her face stolen by Ko. Which was implied in the first season when he first met Ko. He's like, oh, something about stealing the face of the one you loved or whatever,
There's that moment. Shows the face,
Yeah. So now we know who that was. So this is Avatar Kuruk. He's like basically like, yeah, I was want an avatar who just kind of went with the flow and just let things happen. My advice is don't do that.
You need to shape your own destiny and the world's destiny is basically what he said.
Yeah. And then he goes to Avatar Yang Chen and he's like, hey, you're an airbender. You're an air nomad. Yeah, you agree with me, right?
And she's just like, well, you don't have that luxury. You're the avatar.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. He's like, but like the air nomads told us we were supposed to detach ourselves from the world. And she's like, yeah,
Avatar
you can't do that. You can't do that because you're the avatar. Sorry.
You're part of the world, so
sorry. And even the air nomad avatar that he tried to go to told him essentially, you should do whatever it takes to save the whatever benefits the world most, and yeah, realistically, killing Ozai probably benefits the world a lot,
and it's not like he had another option at that point.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
And
yeah,
even if
and
it did, there would be a ton of risk to it. Like, if he
mhm.
captured him, the moment he escaped, okay, then what?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're spending a while on these last 4 episodes, but I mean, it's the finale, so it makes sense.
So
So
Aang
anyways,
realizes he's dissatisfied with all this, and he realizes the island is moving.
so he jumps down, swims, and he realizes it's a giant animal, and he swims to the front. So I love little moments of like Aang's extreme, just like curiosity, like something crazy is going on, and he has to know what it is. Like he goes, this is the biggest animal in the world. I have to go see the front of it. Like I love his little
I need to
personality of
see
that.
its face.
I have to see it, like I love that. So he swims to the front of it. The hand like pulls him up, and he just sees the face of this lion turtle. Interesting thing about the lion turtles, I don't know if you noticed, but if you rewatch the show, there are a lot of little hints towards lion turtles in the show.
Really?
So like at the place where Master Piandao is, the sword master, there's like a couple lion turtle statues that he has. There's somewhere else where there's a lion turtle statue. I don't remember where. And then also there's like when they're in the library, there's a moment where like they're looking at random books and stuff, and Aang goes, "Hey, look at this crazy lion turtle thing, huh?" Like that he found in a book. And it's like a picture of a lion turtle. So there have been little hints at it, which I think is really cool. I didn't notice it until I rewatched the show, obviously, because I wasn't looking for it the first time. Obviously. But yeah, anyways, so lion turtles are these ancient beings, the most ancient of ancient beings who...
You can tell because their art style is slightly different.
Yeah, exactly. And they are able to sort of gift people bending abilities, I guess, or something. So they gift him...
what it was?
Yeah, so they're gifting him essentially the ability to... revealing to him how to like do the ability to energy bend.
Yeah, didn't he mention like it was hard to understand him.
I don't remember I always forget the exact words, but it's like,
Well, like it was that maybe it was referring to the lion turtles, or just like as people were like trying to master bending like the elements around them, but they could never bend the elements within them. I think there was something along that lines.
That's what it was. Yeah. No, you're right.
I remember during the moment, like, the moment of truth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It like echoed in his head that like...
But that echoed a different part where he was like, only a true mind can weather the storms. And
yeah. He was saying something like, if you want to bend, what is inside another person, what is inside you must be unbendable.
Yeah, which is really cool. Which is really cool because it's like the reason, and it's like Aang's spirit is unbendable because his spirit, it was, his very being was telling him like, it was going against everything he believed in to kill the Firelord. And it's unbendable because no matter what, he wouldn't give in to that. He still was like, I need to find another solution, So therefore his spirit was unbendable. He
didn't accept an alternative.
Right.
He just did what he needed to do or wanted to do.
Yeah. Which I really like that idea that it was like a very, it's like everyone was telling him to do it. Everyone was telling him he had to do it.
Also brings up a good point of him, refusing that one chakra. And granted, he did try to unlock it and did for a moment. And then, he got whiplashed back into it when he was shocked by lightning.
Yeah.
But yeah, he refused to let go of Qatar.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, so anyways, so this happens, and then I guess now we're ready to get into the final battles. So this is like the last 2 episodes, essentially.
Right, and there's 4 of them, I guess.
Yeah, four finale episodes. So the last 2 are focused more on the real final battles.
Mm-hmm. So the Lion Turtle sets Aang down and tells him, wait here and he'll come. Which, like,
yeah, that's right.
It's weird, but also really cool that the Lion Turtle's just like, yeah, I know what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
You need to be right here, and I'll set you right here.
Yeah.
You just wait and prepare.
Yes.
I got you, fam.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. I like everything in the show. It's all great. But yeah, so you just, and like, I love that like shot of like just showing all the air balloons. And it's like, it shows like where like Sosaka, Suki, and Toph, are able to sneak their way aboard one of the airships in the very back of the line.
Yeah. Launch themselves.
Yeah, launch themselves, yeah. And then it like the camera just kind of follows all the airships all the way to the very front, and it's just the Firelord just standing there in this Phoenix, the Phoenix King outfit that he has. And I love the design of the comet as well. Like when it first, I think one of the episodes opens, probably the third of these 4 opens with the comet like arriving, and like they're like looking at it through the sky and like, wow, the comet's actually kind of beautiful. Yeah, too bad it's gonna kill so many people. But anyways, yeah, and like the ships going, and like you just see all of the fire being blasted down like tons, and which, okay, to be honest, it was a little weird because I was like, you're at the coast of the Earth Kingdom. I don't think anybody's living here, so I don't know what the point of that is, but
I mean, start early, I guess.
It didn't look like anybody was living there, so yeah. But nitpick.
I did want to talk about this. Like I said,
it is a really cool visual. So
yes, but like waterbending, it's the full moon, but that happens every month, and so they get like a decent boost, but nothing major. Sozan's comet is like once every 100 years, and they go from like cavalry to like artillery.
Yeah, it's insane. Like if you go to the battle at Ba Sing Se with the White Lotus, like to see like Iroh using his firebending and like Zhang Zhang. Like they're fire, like Zhang Zhang's creating these giant walls of fire that are just blasting down the roads, taking out the like tanks, like and like at that moment where Iroh's like, he's like breathing, and he's again, firebending comes from the breath. He's breathing, and he's like,
the ring of fire around them is like pulsing with his breath.
Yeah, and he's just like, a firebender can only feel this kind of power once every 100 years. Like he's like, it's almost like he's like really breathing it in, really feeling the power, cherishing it, because he knows this is the only time in his life he'll ever be able to have this feeling. So I like that kind of like little moment.
I guess we should probably start with the White Lotus and Ba Sing Se, right? Because it's pretty simple, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, it shows the White Lotus fighting in Ba Sing Se, taking it back. As far as that battle goes, there's nothing too spectacular about it beyond. I mean, it's cool, it's spectacular in terms of like it's well done, but like it's not story-wise. It's not
it's not too impactful.
Yeah,
it just shows that they're doing their job and protecting Ba Sing Se. And
and I love like Boomy's there, like Ba Sing Se, White Lotus is here for you. Or what does he say? He's like, the White Lotus has arrived. I don't know. Remember, there's like a line.
I don't remember that line that you're talking about.
But and then like Iroh goes to the palace and like burns down the Fire Nation flag, and
Iroh, they didn't show a lot of Iroh like actually fighting, did they?
I don't think so. I don't know. He threw like the big fireball at the beginning that knocked the wall down, but
Right.
other than that, I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah. But yeah, no. I don't have a lot to say about that fight just cuz like, you know, it was cool. But
Yeah,
like,
it's really just an action scene.
oh yeah, it's really just a big spectacle, like cool action scene. But I love how like all of these battles are happening with I love the look of like having the comet in the sky, because like the sky is like red. The sky is like, it just creates a really cool look for like the battles, like a really cool dark kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess we can then talk about,
Next, Zuko, Qatar, and
or
Azula.
do we want to talk about the Sokka and them?
Well, that one's kind of ever so slightly connected to the Aang fight.
I mean, yeah. So we can talk about like, so Zuko and Qatar go to face Azula, and first off, I just love the moment where she's like, they're there, and she's just like, "Oh, I'm becoming Firelord today," you know, whatever. He's just like, "No, you're
No,
not. I
I
am," and she just like laughs, and you know,
am.
and then there's that moment he's just like, "I challenge you to an Agni Kai," or she might have challenged him, or I don't remember.
No,
Yeah, she
it was,
challenged him,
yes.
and he
Because
accepted.
remember back in Bossing Say, he challenged her and she refused.
But now
And
she's
now,
challenging him because she knows that if she fights him alone, she has a better chance, because obviously otherwise it'd be her versus him and Katara.
but Zuko and Katara have that conversation.
Right.
And he's like, no, she's slipping. I can do this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I love that like he can tell that she's like kind of going insane. She's
Well,
like,
it's
there's
not
something different.
hard.
She's slipping, you know. I can tell. Like,
It's pretty obvious.
he's like, I don't know why, but there's just something off about her, and he's just like, I think I can do it, you know. And then
this way, no one else has to get it.
right, or so he thought. Anyways, so the fight, the Agni Kai begins, and I just, Azula's like fighting style compared to the way it is in the rest of the show is just so different because of like her insanity at this point. Like throughout the whole show, she's very specific, calm, calculating, like every move, right? She's very specific, precise, and deadly. In this, she's just kind of like wobbling around, like laughing like a mad, like, you know, like an insane person, you know. She's like, Zuzu, you don't look so good. Like, you know, she's just
and like they start off the fight with that like trash talk for a while. And then there's a moment where like they mute a lot of the noise and it is just like very like basic, like the rumbles and the impacts of the flames. And it is just like showing
plus
each of the clashes and
plus some music. That really good music.
Very,
I love it.
Intense. How do I put it? Like there's no intense music or background noise. They mute it all. So it's like natural, like suspense, I guess.
Yeah, it is. And I think I love it. It's just that scene is really good. And like, it's funny because like the only like other times we've seen Agni Kai in the show, like when, like for instance, when Zuko was facing Zhao in an Agni Kai, it's very like normal firebending. They kind of throw some firebending kicks and punches and whatever. This is like extreme firebending, which, you know, is obviously because of the comet. You know, the comet just intensifies their firebending extremely to the point where they're like, where like Azula's like flying across like the ground, and it's just,
and like each of their clashes, it's setting buildings on fire.
Yeah, it's a really cool battle. Like, and just to see the clashing of the all those red or orange flames and all the blue flames, and it's just really good. I don't know what to say beyond the fact that it's amazing.
And she starts using lightning.
Yeah. And
But
Zuko's,
not when Zuko wanted it.
Right, exactly. Zuko's ready for it. Zuko's like, you know what? I've done lightning redirection before. I can do it again. I love that. Well, because the only reason she starts using lightning is because he brings it up too. He's like, what's the matter? No lightning today? Afraid I'll redirect it? Like, he's so cocky. He's like, afraid I'll redirect it? And then she just said that, like, almost reminds her to use lightning. She's like, I'll show you lightning. And then he's like ready. His stance is there. He's ready.
But she sees Katara.
But she decides to cheat since, they're in an Agni Kai and shoots it towards Katara, which, Zuko jumps in the way and he's still trying to redirect it, and he kind of redirects it a little bit, but it's still like hardcore hits him.
Well, it hits him and he's struggling a lot more than he did like the first time he redirected lightning. And it cuts away to the sky and you see like the boat go up. So like I guess he redirected most of it.
Yeah.
But maybe not.
Not enough. Like it will, yeah, because I mean, Iroh had talked about how like you have to make sure it goes through the stomach and not through the heart, right? Or it could be deadly. And like I think it was kind of like because he was so taken off by where she shot it, he was ready for it, but then she shot it towards Qatar, which threw him off, and then like he wasn't able to do it quite as well. But now Azula is chasing after Katara, and she's insane, Zuzu, you don't look so good. Ha 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 ha. And I love how Katara ends up taking her out.
The water grates, yeah. She realizes that's there, and while she's about to get, attacked and killed, water rises up and everything freezes.
Yeah, she's using some of her brother's good idea skills, Yeah. And then like I just love that moment, like she just pulls it up and it's frozen, and they're both just in there frozen, like staring at each other. It's like a really kind of tense moment.
And she just gradually melts the ice around her for her to move and ties her up.
Yep. And it's like in that final shot, the last time you ever see, and this is the last time you actually ever see Azula, in these episodes in the show.
Yeah.
She's just there tied up. She's just like breathing fire. She's just trying, like kicking and trying to like, and then she starts like breaking down into tears. Like it's like, yeah, she's a terrible, terrible person, but like it's kind of like you kind of feel bad when she starts breaking down into tears in a way. You're just like, poor girl. In a way, it's like
she was made that way.
Yeah. She does appear again in like some of the comics that they made.
Oh.
But yeah, so
I doubt it's a positive appearance.
I don't know. I don't know anything about them, but I just know that she does. Like I never read them, but I know she does at one point. Like there's one about Zuko going to find his mother, and I think she shows up in there. And she does end up meeting up with their mother again at some point, and I don't know what happens, but because I never read them, but I just heard things about it.
Going back, Katara heals Zuko. He's fine.
Yeah. Well, there was a moment when I first watched it where I was like, is Zuko gonna die? Like I actually thought like maybe he does. I was like, no, please no. I was like, he has to become Firelord, no. And then he didn't, and I was like, whew, he didn't die. I would have cried if Zuko died. Like I would have legitimately broken down into tears while watching the finale. But no, he doesn't die, which is great. Which is good because he needs to be Firelord. They need him to
definitely
help bring the nation back. So yeah, then
next war balloons,
the air balloon battle. So this one's really cool. So again, Sokka's ideas, they go into the control room, and he's just like, I have an idea. Hey, we have a very special birthday to celebrate.
I can't believe the captain remembered my birthday. He does care. Shunk.
I love like the little awkward moment between a few of them. He's like, "Hey, I work down in the engine room. That's probably why we never met."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those two guys. And then they fall into the water, and they're just like swimming there, and the one guy's just like, happy birthday.
So good.
And then they do.
There's this entire like fight scene where Suki and Sokka just stay back out of the control room, I guess, and Toph just covers herself in the metal doorway and just bare fist.
Well, I think it's kind of cool to see how much she's improved the metal bending up to that point, because at the beginning she wasn't definitely not able to do that with her metal bending.
Mm-hmm. She could just bend the metal forcefully, but now it's like moving with her.
Yeah, like the same thing she's done. We've seen her do with like earthbending before, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to see like the progression of that.
I really love that. Like, there is no weakness to that. She is fully covered in metal. Like any seams, she's like clenched down tightly. There's no eye holes because she doesn't need them. She is completely encased in metal.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do against that?
She's the only person ever who is able to metal bend, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, exactly. But yeah, and then it's like, then they take out the other airships by slicing them with that airship.
Yeah, because Sokka commented on Aang's fight, like, air slice.
Oh, yeah.
Balloon slice or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, what it was. He's like, wait, air balloon slice? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then Suki, like, falls off on one of the airships or whatever.
Right. And so it's just Sokka and Toph, and, you know, you don't get to see Suki for a while.
Yeah. I love that moment where, like, it's like there's that moment where it's like Sokka and Toph are like hanging on the edge, and it's like that, and it's like it's almost like it's like that like last, you know, like moment where it's like, you know, he throws the boomerang. I don't think boomerang's coming back, Toph.
He throws his space sword too.
Goodbye, space sword. That's sad.
And then just more firebenders come, and they're about to get probably incinerated.
Yeah. But then, boom, Suki comes back. Mm-hmm. Did Boomerang come back? No, Suki did. Yep.
I don't know. Once again, I love Sokka and Suki's relationship, because in this scenario, Sokka's idea, man, he's like not, you know, he's not doing a ton of fighting. He's finagling his way through the fights and, you know, managing to come out alive and using his ideas to destroy the war balloons.
Yeah.
Suki was just on that balloon and
controlling it and like maneuvering it around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she did whatever she needed to get over to them and save them.
Yep. You
know, by herself.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm ready to talk about the big fight. So finally, the fight that the entire show has been building towards, the one that we, you know, heard about from the very beginning. It was always, Aang, you got to face the Firelord. Aang, you're going to face the Firelord. You know, here it is. So I love the moment when the airships come and like Aang's just standing there on one of the rocks, like ready. Like, it's just a really cool, like, you know, it's a visual, like, I am the Avatar and I'm ready for you.
I do remember because the Phoenix King shot off his like first blast, and I forget Aang did something that like caught him off guard to reveal his position and blocked it.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it was, though.
I don't know. I don't remember all the details, but yeah. I think you're right.
But it was a very like standoff, like no, I'm not allowing you to do this, and you have to come down here and face me if you want to get past me.
But I love that moment where Ozai just like he sees that and he's just like Ozai's like, all right, let's go. He just freaking takes off all of his like Phoenix King stuff that he had, just goes shirtless, takes everything off. He's just like, all right, I'm ready to do this. And he just flies right down. No hesitation. Ozai's just like...
Well, he's like riding that power high of being the Phoenix King. Because he's like, all, a century of you hiding, and now the universe brings you to me as an offering.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's that. It's the fact that he's the Phoenix King and the power high of the comet as well. Which I've always wondered this. Like, so the comet gives firebenders more power. Does that mean it would make Aang's firebending more powerful too?
I believe so, yes, because he was like novice firebender, maybe amateur. But he used like firebending to block a lot of the Phoenix Kings.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, anyway, so the beginning...
The comet helped him in that regard, because he didn't need to master firebending, because the comet supported him in that regard.
Yeah.
Even though
the
Phoenix Kings was better than his, it at least wasn't a weakness in that scenario.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So I think... So the beginning of the fight is mostly Aang running, right? Avoiding him because he doesn't know what to do. Like, he's not like ready to like, he's still trying to figure things out.
Strong enough to fight him. Right,
exactly. Like he was there ready to face him, but he didn't know what he was going to do when he faced him, kind of. And while
there's a lot of interesting moments, he's running, he, gets some counterattacks in, but it doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah. And then I love the moment where Ozai shoots lightning at him and he uses lightning redirection, right? Because earlier, Zuko taught Aang lightning redirection. I love it. I love the, like, it's like, Iroh taught Zuko lightning redirection. Now Zuko teaches Aang lightning redirection, and it saves his life,
Saved both their lives.
Yeah, exactly. And then when he's redirecting the lightning, you can see he's like kind of pointing it at Ozai.
And his face. He sees his like first genuine fear on his face.
And he's like, that's a human right there. Like, I can't do this. And he just points it away and shoots it off instead. But yeah, eventually this fight leads to Aang sort of just cowering, like creating a
sphere of earth around him.
Yeah. And he's just like, I don't know what to do. And this is where the fight shifts because, Ozai's just pounding fire on him over and over again, trying to get into this casing. It pushes him back to where a spike of like earth or whatever hits him.
He like starts incinerating the rock and going through, and then he puts up an earth or an air buffer shield,
and he pushes
thrown back into
him back. Yeah, he gets thrown back into a rock, and it hits him right on the same spot that Azula shot him. And somehow that
exit lightning wound.
Yes,
it would be the exit, right? Because the entrance is in his foot.
Oh, did it hit his foot?
Well, yeah, because she was underneath him, and there is a scar.
I thought it.
One foot.
Oh wait, yeah, I think you're. I thought it hit his back. Well, you could be right. You might be right,
I do know
actually.
that there are 2 scars, one on his foot, one on his back, and she was underneath him, so I would assume the foot was the entrance and
Yeah,
the
it
back was the
didn't
exit.
fully show exactly where it hit. Okay, yeah, you're probably right, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyways, it hits that wound, and it somehow triggers something inside of him, right? That causes him to be able to go into the avatar state.
I love this scene because he's buried underneath the rock, and
Ozai's there like, haha, I got you now. But
taunting,
then all of a sudden,
what are you gonna do? And then the hand comes up and grabs his beard,
and then he just pulls himself up with that, like within the avatar state, and it's just so. And now this is where the fight shifts, because most of the fight has been, Ozai is in control, right? Ozai's chasing him. Ozai's the one who with all the power. Now, because Aang has unlocked the avatar state, it's suddenly Aang is just. It's suddenly Ozai's trying to survive.
Yes.
And there's those moments where like Aang flies up and he brings all the elements around him, so all of them are just revolving around him. And like
there's the sphere of wind around him. He condenses like this belt of rocks around him, and they like crush and condense denser and denser. And the water, which is like this huge wave, goes into a single stream, and same with the fire.
Yeah.
Which this is an interesting point, because when he was being taught firebending, Zuko like told him to like roar like whatever.
Roar like a tigerdillo. Or roar like
And it was that breathing fire upward and the shooting fire out of your fists outward.
Yeah.
And Ozai did that at the beginning of this fight as well.
Yeah.
And it kind of establishes that as like a display of power for firebenders. And Aang does that in this moment, except he also does it with his feet downward and outward. And then all that fire that's like whipping around in this star-shaped pattern turns into that stream of fire. And Ozai is looking at that like, oh no, he did a bigger display of power that the firebenders do than me.
Yeah. It's like, and then he has that moment. He's up there, and it's like he's talking in like the Avatar state voice. It's like all of the voices of the avatars. It's like, Firelord Ozai, you have devastated these lands for years. It is now like it's now time for you to pay for it or whatever. And because of, Avatar state, it's like he grabs all 4 of the elements together in this like spiral up in the air, about to just smash him in the face.
That's such a cool visual too, because it's like all 4 equal parts all spiraling around. They shoot up, curve down, and they're about to just pummel into him.
Yeah. But then at the last second, I just like love this moment, it just stops.
And he just splashed with cold
Aang
water.
pulls himself out of the avatar state, and he just stands here. He's like, no, I'm not going to end it like this. And like, he's still, like we said before, he has his unbendable spirit. No matter what, he cannot bring himself to do it. Which is why his, spirit bending, or what is it called?
Energy bending?
Energy bending, yeah. His energy bending is so successful because in order to bend one spirit, your spirit must also be unbendable.
Well, there's also the moment between these 2 things where Aang turns away and like lets the Firelord go.
Yeah.
And he gets attacked from behind, and Aang has this moment, I do believe it's the first moment, where Aang like uses Toph's like vibration sense stuff
to sense, and then he does like a kickback with his foot to like hit, capture his hand. And he does it with both of his arms, traps both of his arms, and then just puts his hand on his forehead and
forehead and chest, I believe, right?
Yes. And I must say, like, the visual of the energy bending is just really cool. Like the lights coming out from both of them, and like it's like the blue light and the like red light or orange light. Yeah.
Their like shells are shed in this like weird like visual representation where like their entire bodies start glowing.
Right. It's like
red.
Yeah, it's like
taking over Aang's body.
Yeah, because those colors of their body represents their energy. The energy within them.
I do really like the idea of energy bending too, because like Aang is trying to bend his energy, but in order to do that, he is risking his own energy being bent.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And like it's almost there. It's like I like that visual of where it's like almost covering up his eyes, and then all of a sudden there's that moment it stops. He just tilts his head forward, and then it just goes, and yeah. And it's weird because when the first time you watch this, you don't realize what he's doing. You don't know that he's taking his bending away. You're just kind of, it has something to do with the lion turtle because you hear the voice come back, and you're like, oh, okay. But you're like, what is he doing exactly? And then he says, Firelord tries to bend. I took your bending away. Yeah. And now you see he has full control over the avatar state as well, because he turns to the avatar state for a second to like use the water to put the fires out, and like, yeah.
There's also a similarity between when he had the vision of Kyoshi. She like flashed her eyes avatar state looking, and then used an immense amount of power as if she was in the avatar state.
Yeah.
But she wasn't fully in it.
Yeah, because it was implied that she had gained control over the avatar state at that point as well. Yeah.
And now Aang does that with putting out the fires, with energy bending just before it.
Yep. Aang has gained full control over the avatar state at 12 years old. Pretty impressive.
Hell yeah.
112-year-olds old technically, but doesn't matter.
Those 100 years are like he was
nothing. He was frozen in ice, so it doesn't count. But yeah, so then you get the scene where it's like everybody's sort of gathered in the Fire Nation, where Zuko's finally becoming Firelord, and it's like I love this like moment where it's like Aang and Zuko are there, and he's just like, we're gonna rebuild the world together, like it's like because like they were enemies at the beginning, and then now it's like it's just the two of them are like best friends. It's great. And I don't know what else to say really. It's great.
There's another instance of Sokka being bad at art when he was drawing
right at the end, which I really like that last scene, because it's like, I love that the last time you see Zuko, he's back in the tea shop serving tea.
Even though he is the Firelord,
Right, yeah, exactly. He's the Firelord, but he's still there serving everyone tea. But like, I love it because it's like, in a way, when he was just a simple tea server was when he found himself, kind of. Like when he first became who he was meant to be, right? That's where he went through the sickness and became like nice Zuko, happy Zuko, and then like it was ruined, and he
flash of his personality.
Yeah, and like yes, he made a bad decision after that, but like there was still that part of him that was there that eventually is what led him to decide to go against his father. But like I just love that it's like they go back to that for his final moment, like that was him in like almost his purest form in a way, like just a simple tea server. I kind of like that. That's how last time we see him.
May comes and visits Zuko, and they get back together, and May's just like, but don't ever break up with me again.
Yep.
Like, okay. I guess that's a fair deal.
Yep, exactly.
And then I believe it is the very last scene where,
Aang and Katara.
yeah, they kiss finally.
Yeah, well, they did before. I think this is like the second or third time they did.
Sure.
But this is like a very final one where it's like a very like, they are clearly together now. There's no confusion. It's not like right before battle doing it. It's just we're here, relaxing, having a good time, and we're in love.
This is one of the very few shows that confirm the ships.
Yeah, I mean that one was always there. Like that one was always in the show, I think, because like it was pretty clear from even season 1 that like Aang liked Katara, and
But it like solidified it as official.
Yes, yeah. I like that a lot of the characters end the show in like a relationship, because it's like Katara and Aang, and then like Sokka and Suki, Zuko and May. Yeah, it's really cool. I guess Paku and Gran.
Oh yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
But none for Toph.
None for Toph. I mean, yeah, she's only 12. I mean, Aang's only 12 too, but
all of them are only 12 for the most part.
No. I mean, Katara's Katara's 14.
All right. And
Sokka's 15.
Yeah. And Zuko and everyone else there are like teenagers.
Zuko's like 16, I think. Yeah. I don't know how old like May and Ty Lee are. They're teenagers. I mean, I know
probably
that.
Around there.
And then I think Azula is like 14 or something, but I don't know. Azula is like 14.
I'd assume they would be closer in age. Azula and Zuko.
2 years apart, which is still close, but not, super close.
Overly so.
But yeah.
You really don't look at Qatar and Azula and think, they're the same age.
Yeah, Azula always seems older than she is, just because she's so in control and so like, yeah. But anyways, we're at 2 hours and 45 minutes.
And it's almost midnight.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes. It'll be midnight. At the beginning, before we started recording this, you were like, oh, this might go till midnight. And I was like, it's not going to go till midnight. And here we are, 20 minutes till midnight.
Go till midnight. It's Avatar.
Yeah, but we finally finished talking about it. So anyways, any final things to say about it?
I love it.
Yeah, me too. It's like one of my favorite shows. I will eventually finish making my Zuko trilogy of videos that I'm working on. I was working on the script a little bit today. So yeah, I'm like halfway through probably the script for the second video.
Right. I was gonna ask. Didn't you say you finished the first videos one?
Just the script.
Right.
Yeah, because I want to finish the scripts first, so then I can like edit them all kind of around the same time. Because I want them to come out like close to the same time. Like, I don't want to like make one and then the next one take for a few months. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that'd be a pain.
But yeah, so that'll hopefully eventually actually happen. I mean, I'm sure it will. So we next week are potentially going to have a guest. I believe we will. I contacted him before. It sounds like he is able to. It's just we haven't coordinated a time because we're still waiting on like when you are going to work and stuff next week. So we haven't coordinated that. So we will probably be having a guest next week. And the week after that, we could maybe start talking about a different TV show if you want to.
Right.
So before we had mentioned doing Korra, but I actually have an idea for a show. So we can take a break from the Avatar universe because that's been literally half of our podcast so far. Because we talked about the movie, the horrible movie, and then we talked about the show. So we take a break from it.
7 episodes, and we're at episode 14.
Yes. So yeah, literally half of the episodes are in some way related to Avatar. I think we even brought it up in our guest episode with Parks. So
Probably.
This is such a long podcast. Holy crap! It's 2:48 right now. 2 hours 48 minutes. Anyways, have you ever seen the show BoJack Horseman? Netflix original.
The animated show where there's a guy with a horse head, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's a world with like, it's like our world, but with anthropomorphic animals, kind of. But
yeah.
So it seems on the surface like it's just another average dumb adult comedy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it seems like that, but it's actually really good. There's a lot of like interesting stuff with like characters and like the way it handles the characters and the sort of like it deals with a lot of like mental illness and like depression and stuff like that and different issues like that, like real world issues,
I
but
think
with
I've seen like single like frames of it with captions of similar things to that.
So
regard.
It gets really good. Season one is definitely not the best, so but we can do that if you want to. It's on Netflix. I mean, it's a Netflix original. It's 6 seasons because we wouldn't do half seasons. We would probably do one season at a time because they're 12 episode seasons.
Okay.
And each episode is probably around the same length as an Avatar episode, about. Pretty much.
I might have seen a handful of clips and a handful of like these little images, but I've never actually been interested in it.
Yeah, well, when I first started watching it, I wasn't that interested in it either. Like, I was like, okay, it seems like, again, like I said, another just one of those average, dumb adult cartoon shows, whatever. Just a bunch of dumb humor. And yeah, but then it really, when I really got hooked, and then about a year ago it ended, just over a year ago it ended with season 6, and it's like one of my favorite shows ever now. I love it. I really connected with a lot of the emotional stuff going on with like the different characters, and there's a lot of really interesting, especially like the main character BoJack. It's a really good show. I feel like as it goes, you would like it, and I don't know, you might like the comedy style because it is comedy, but it's also like it's a comedy but also a drama.
Right.
But like it balances the two really well, and it's like, but yeah, you might like the style of comedy as well. I don't know. I like it, but yeah. So if you want to do that, that was just something I was going to throw out there. But
all right, I'll subject myself to some feels.
All right, here we go. So yeah, BoJack Horseman. That will be, for now, our decision on 2 weeks from now, season 1 of BoJack Horseman. 12 episodes, season 1. So all of it for one discussion. I don't think the discussions will last as long as the Avatar ones because I feel like there's some episodes that aren't going to be as like in-depth discussions. Maybe, who knows? We'll see how it goes. Anyways, I guess we should end because it's literally about 3 hours, and this is the longest podcast we've ever had. Thank you so much for listening to the WABAN podcast. If you're still listening, I don't know if you can listen for almost 3 hours, but whatever. There are
midnight.
Yeah, it's all 10 minutes till midnight. Yes. There are multiple places you can listen to the WABAN podcast. You can listen to it on my YouTube channel, which is Nim TV. You can also listen to it on multiple different audio platforms. That is anchor.fm/WABAN. You can also listen to it on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. A new episode is released every Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So that is when you can expect new episodes of WABAN. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Good night.